What's
What's
up,
up?
everybody? How's it going? I'm Corey, and
Welcome.
there's Mr. Grant, as you all know, I'm sure, if you're here. We are super excited to have you today. It's a glorious Thursday afternoon as most of the country
Glorious.
awaits snowpocalypse.
Oh
And
yeah.
uh,
Stay
uh,
safe out there, y'all.
looks
Stay
like we're going
safe.
to dodge it in St. Louis, man. I'm excited.
That's good.
They're
That's
saying
good.
1 to 3 inches, but that can change in a hurry. And, we're really close to like those next lines. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's super great to have everyone here. Should be some more pine in a minute, so we're not going to get too deep just yet.
Mhm.
And hope everybody's having a good week. Today, though, we're going to talk data science,
Yep.
which is way out of me and Grant's realm, but we are excited to dive in and learn from a very good friend who's joining us today that we made just a few months ago in San Francisco while we were all out covering Microsoft Ignite. That was it was a lot of fun, and that's where we met the gentleman you're going to see here in just a few minutes. Oh,
All right. Should we go
all right,
ahead and introduce him?
all right, cool,
I'm
cool.
just about to send
I was
this
just
out.
waiting to see if you were out yet.
No, we're
Uh,
good. We can start. Yeah.
all right, so today we're going to bring on Dennis Salguero, and he's going to tell me if I said that right. And
Perfect.
perfect, excellent. Dennis is from Data Science with Dennis on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and everywhere else you can find him. He's a wonderful dude to chat with. He's extremely intelligent. He's been working in tech since graduating college back in 1999. Started off working as a general developer, mostly within the MS.NET stack. Early adopter, and basically just did that for a long time. Learned to use SQL Server, MySQL, and Oracle. But about 15 years ago, dove into data science head first, and he's been doing that for ever now. And now spends his days as a content creator, much like we do, and talking to people, solving problems, does consulting work with folks. And we thought he's just the perfect person to bring here to our audience today and talk data science, AI, the intersection of the two, and whatever you all have in mind. So if you have questions, please, either hang on to them or drop them in the chat in a little bit. We'll try to hit some as we go, and some we'll get a little bit later. But we'll make sure we get everything we can today. Dennis, welcome to the Neuron, my friend. How are you?
Thanks so much. Appreciate the intro. What a kind intro. Yeah, doing well. Doing well. Hope the same for you guys. And I love that you mentioned questions. It's nice to have that interaction on the chat.
It
So
is.
for anybody out there, feel free to say hello and drop it in the chat, and happy to take questions.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, Dennis,
Yeah.
how is the data space these days? Is it insane with all of what's happening with AI? I know that there seems to be more talk about data right now than I ever recall before.
Sure. Well, I think there's two reasons for that, Corey. Um, One, we have to think about AI as being a collection of components, right? It's a collection of components that are all rooted under the umbrella of data science, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, AI wouldn't be possible without like transformers. Transformers wouldn't be possible without BERT.
Yeah.
BERT wouldn't be possible without neural networks, and so kind of like backwards down the line, right? So I think for that, data is still very important, right? Developing those skills to be able to work with all of that, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also kind of like the functional use of data for the AI systems that are out there, right? Like kind of like the inference side of things.
Yeah.
How can we, as an individual, a company, an organization, get our data in an appropriate repository, an appropriate setup, appropriate formats to be able to work with it for whatever our AI
Yeah.
plans may be, right?
Yeah. And I guess that
Whether it,
both involves preparing your data to work with AI, your data in AI, and using AI to both access and analyze your data as well, I guess.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a skill in itself, right? Preparing
Yeah.
data and kind of having it ready to go. That doesn't happen on its own.
No, no, it doesn't. And we talk to a lot of companies, and one of the things that is the common
Sure.
thread is that, if you want to truly build AI within your organization and be able to have, AI for your employees that is aware of your business context, for example,
Yeah,
uh, step one is getting your data house in order, I'm told.
sure.
And that's apparently quite the rodeo for some folks.
It is. Absolutely is. I mean, data on its own can sometimes be difficult to work with, right? I
Yeah.
mean, no matter what you're doing, right? There's always things like cross-border data issues and policies, right? In big organizations, right? So that alone is difficult to work with, even aside from AI, or even just doing plain analytics, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and then as far as thinking about an AI mindset, well, how do you get it ready? How do you get it current? How do you get it accurate in order to start working with some of these AI tools? One of the things I think companies overlook is how do you maintain your ongoing data pipeline, right?
Yeah.
Documents change, customer lists change, plans change. How do you make sure that your AI is working on your latest plans, your latest
How do you do
approaches,
that?
your latest policies? Yeah.
How
I'm
how
sorry.
how how, how do you do it? Yeah, what's your strategy?
It really depends. There is no single answer because it can be dependent on internal approaches, internal policies, what it is you're tracking. I'll give you a real world example. Well, if I was working for a financial client. I don't like using actual names, but you guys can look me
That's
up on
fine.
LinkedIn.
That's fine.
They were talking about how I was working in their global wealth management function, which requires a lot of money transfers, wires, things along those lines.
Sensitive data.
And they were talking about kind of just ideating through a dashboard using AI that could show you the status of different wire transfers, right?
Yeah.
And in some cases, you kind of need like almost near real-time alerts for some of these transfers. Well, how do you do that in an AI system, right? I mean, it's possible, but that implies that you'd have some sort of real-time feeding and some real-time like tuning or some sort of way to make the AI aware of on an hourly basis whether a particular wire transfer came through or not,
Yeah.
right? That's not an easy problem to solve, right? And when I say not easy problem to solve, I'm talking just on the policy side, right? How do you create those internal connections to even make that data available? That's not something that you normally do,
Yeah.
right? And then if you can overcome that big hurdle, how do you get that ready for AI, right? I mean, like, what does that look like? Are you going to be fine tuning on an hourly basis? Maybe, maybe
Yeah.
not, right?
Ooh.
So that's just one example, right? There's many out there. So I really can't give you an answer just because there are so many nuances based on what it is you're
Depends
trying to
on
solve.
where you work, what your existing policy is, what is actually possible by the models.
And your resources, right? Because if you're going to say, yeah, we're going to fine tune on a regular basis, well, how regular? Do you
Yeah.
have the
That's a lot
architecture
of
for that?
GPUs that you might need access
Yeah.
to all of a
Yeah.
sudden.
Yeah, what does that
Yeah, and those
architecture
things are
look
sold
like?
like the mafia now.
Well, I mean, you could rent them, but that's not cheap. Using any of the numerous clouds that provide them. Yeah.
Right. And not every company or industry out there is cloud friendly, right?
Nope.
Financial services, historically are not cloud friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love talking to people who, either email me or in the chats or whatnot. Everybody kind of assumes that companies are open to being on AWS and I'm going to go on and have this huge Azure architecture. Well, no, you're not. Not every company is open to that,
Yeah.
right? So how do you manage your data if you're working in a company that doesn't use cloud, right?
Yeah.
Where does
They're
that
dealing
leave
with
you?
on-prem tech stacks and stuff still, aren't they, in a lot of cases?
100%.
Actually, we met an interesting company that is doing exactly that. Like they're creating like essentially and vibe coding tools. I mean, they probably wouldn't call it that, but engineering coding agents specifically for use on prem for industries that are exactly what Dennis just described, like not open to cloud-based stuff and definitely not open to sharing their data in that way. The company is called Poolside. Have you come across them at all, Dennis? Do you know them?
I think Corey might have told me about those two things. Corey and I have a lot of discussions. But I did kind of chuckle when you said, no, not vibe coding. These are engineering agents.
Yeah. Well,
funny. That's a marketing person behind that.
I think the industry is starting to embrace the idea of vibe coding as like the way, and not just the thing that you make fun of, like, someone like me or Corey, for example, spinning up a demo on, AI Studio and being like, look, I made an app. It's like, no, I think they're starting to embrace it.
That's because the apps are less embarrassing than they were a while back. Like, you can spin up some pretty real stuff right now. Byte coding.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dennis, we understand that you are like the Codex. Codex is your go-to model. Is that right?
Recently Codex has definitely impressed me. And also, to Corey's point, I think that's one of the things that we should all think about how much they've advanced in just a couple of years, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when I hear people poo-poo vibe coding or whatnot, that's kind of like, that kind of worries me in a way. It's like, are you paying attention? Like, have you seen how much better these tools have gotten?
Yeah.
And that's really one of the core messages I try to get out there, where if you're looking at how neural networks, or excuse me, how AI is now, that's okay, but that's short-sighted, right? The strength in the LLMs is how quickly they learn and adjust, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look how much we've advanced in just a handful of years, right?
I remember in really early days of ChatGPT, and frankly, up until not that long ago, regular conversations with people who were like, it sucks. It's nothing.
Right.
And I was like, you're not watching how fast it's happening, because the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter what it's doing today. Imagine right now, though. Think, if you think back 14, 15 months right now, research models were brand new.
Right.
They're now super powerful. We're on third gens of them for every company.
And just to be clear, when you're saying research, you're talking about reasoning models.
Yeah. I don't know why I keep calling them research models.
Well, I just don't want people to get confused, because there's deep research, but I think that's like sort of a different, it's like reasoning plus some harness stuff.
Yeah. Oh, we got a couple questions, Dennis, if you want to take a stab here.
Yeah, Corey, just to add on to your point there, I think the way I saw it most succinctly stated, I think it was like on an X post, somebody said, hey, look, when you're doing Gen AI for images, we don't have to count fingers anymore, right?
That's right.
I mean, there was a time when we were like, oh, look at that 7 fingers, but we don't have to do that anymore, right?
Yeah, and the spelling's almost there too.
Right. So coding is going to follow along too, right? The power is in how they learn.
Yeah, and it's going to be a cross-industry thing in the short term, I believe. I think, the truth is, coding's first for a variety of reasons, like, foundational math and things that are important for all of AI. But there's also, this element of that's who's building it. And of course, they're building it to do the things they do very well. But it's, at the same time, it's a heck of a lot better writer than it was 2 years ago. It makes better pictures. It's doing a lot of things better. It's, solving age-old mathematical problems right now has been hot in the news this last month, I'd say.
Right.
It seems like every 3 days there's another Erdos problem, or Erdish. Forgive me.
I've actually never pronounced that out loud, so I'm not going to try it.
That's a good approach. That's the approach I should be taking.
But the really famous math, the really famous math problems from Paul E, let's say, who published them all. Yeah. Well, yeah. So
I think you guys had a piece on that, and a couple of months ago, I did a little bit of content around an article that was in Scientific American. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Such a great
magazine. Scientific American had one where 12 top math professors came together to come up with brand new math problems, and they were so careful that they only communicated via signal. So all chats were encrypted. It wasn't possible for LLMs to be trained on anything that they wrote down.
Yeah.
And through reasoning models, they actually did pretty good on these previously unpublished problems.
Wow.
Yeah, so the reasoning models are insanely good.
Yeah, they really are. And when you get into like 5.2 Pro, Gemini 2.5 Pro really blew my mind. I think blew everybody's mind when it came out too. It was a great model.
Yeah.
Let's
I
see.
think we had a question up, right?
We have a couple actually. And this is kind of a two-parter. So this is the one that was up a minute ago.
Yeah.
And from EarnStack developer, I'm seeing people pasting code with AI. What is the future ahead? I'm afraid it might cost our jobs. And I want to drop this second half of that because it matters. What can we do to future-proof our career in EarnStack in this AI era?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I'm going to display some of my ignorance here. I'm not familiar with the MERN stack in particular. So if somebody wants to clarify in the chat, I'd appreciate it. But look, I mean, any stack, it's kind of stack agnostic, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I'm about to, blow up your stream here, guys, but this is definitely one of the controversial takes I have, and I get roasted from my folks. But yeah, I think that being a coder is definitely something that people should be worried about. So the person is expressing a fear. I think your fear is well founded, right?
Yeah.
Should
they elaborated here a little bit? Should they change their field to machine learning engineering or AI engineering or some other tech stack you might recommend?
Well, I mean, you can't just change tech stacks, right? All of them will be conquered at some point, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Python or C#, who cares, right?
Yeah.
But I think that you're gonna start seeing a shift. I think the smarter universities are gonna start saying, well, look, we can't just do the same old computer science degree anymore. And I think a lot of them are gonna start going to having it more be a machine learning engineer type of degree, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think doing a shift towards machine learning
can't go wrong at a minute.
Yeah, machine learning, and really you need to get to deep learning and neural networks, right? But I think that is probably more valuable than pursuing your traditional, computer science or, computer science degree or like a code monkey job, which, a lot of people kind of have out of college.
Do you think that computer science degree changes into something valuable in a different way, whether it's like, more philosophical almost, in a way that's dealing more with like code review and ensuring things have taken appropriate paths, and in a way that's more of a, I guess you'd still have to learn to be able to edit. I don't know. Do you think it changes, or do you think it's just toast?
So I think it'll change to have more of a machine learning emphasis.
Okay.
But what people really want to know is about their career and their future, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have the same inherent problem then that you have now. And that's that these kids, these students, they're learning from people who are not practitioners.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the inherent problem. You're learning from professors that are academics, not practitioners.
Yeah.
So I think that problem is not going to go away, unfortunately. Because some of the items you mentioned, Corey, are very practical. It's the very practical side of being a developer or being on a development team, right?
Yeah.
Schools aren't going to worry about that, right? I mean, or even in the best data science programs now, it's still very hard to teach something with like deep data, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you simulate a big data environment on a college campus? Not easy. College degrees are also not good at understanding that you're not always going for the highest accuracy, right? Highest accuracy is usually how people are, judged for their grades. But in the real world, you don't always go for the highest accuracy. You're usually going for what makes the lowest mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Because mistakes have a dollar value associated to them.
What's fast, easy, and cheap is the real world problems you're trying to solve for.
Sure. Yeah. But most companies are willing to accept that algorithms aren't perfect, and that's okay. But so what saves us the most money, right?
Yeah.
So Grant, earlier you asked about a real world example. So I'll give you a real world example about that. I was working for a client who, believe it or not, they are a company that receives 500,000 inbound phone calls every single day. That's a lot of phone calls. Very few companies on a planet can claim.
Wow.
Who is still calling people these days?
Yeah, I don't want to get into it because it was a weird company. But yeah, a lot of inbound phone calls, right?
Yeah,
And most of them were to 800 numbers, 1-800 numbers. But so robo-dialers were a big problem for them, right? Robo-dialers cost them money, right? When you're getting 500,000 phone calls, it costs money. So if you're a data scientist, you can make two mistakes, right? The mistake is that you pick up a robo-dialer phone call, right? Or that you deny a human phone call, right? It was a human on the phone, but you actually thought it was a robo-dialer and you hang up on them.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the two mistakes. There's two completely different costs associated with those mistakes from a business perspective, not a data science perspective, but a business perspective, right?
Yeah.
You much prefer to not take the robo-dialer calls because the robo-dialers are experts at keeping you on the line and running up your phone bills. Whereas an inbound caller, and if it's a sales call, well, you can associate there's a low probability of closing that person on a sale, right?
Yeah.
A university would never teach you that.
That's right.
A university is going to give you an A because you correctly identified the highest accuracy or you passed some threshold of accuracy or whatnot.
Yeah.
But that's not an accuracy problem, right?
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that no matter how these degrees adjust, universities just don't teach them, right?
You know, I remember
slow.
as my bachelor's is in philosophy, but I
Right.
studied journalism as well, and that's where I put my minor, mainly because I already had a job in the field at the time when I went to college. And something that makes me think of is that I remember going and then being like, all right, so this is reporting 101. You're going to write 4 stories this semester. And I was like, I work for a daily newspaper. I'll write 4 stories today.
Sure.
You know, what is the value here? And I remember wondering that. But part of the reason I stayed with philosophy and a reason I love recommending it to people is because I always look back on it as a degree in how to think critically and how to look at problems from an angle that's not your own. You know, it's not as much about, you know, remembering the words of Aristotle. It's more about, you know, learning how to approach problems, how to think, how to reason. And honestly, I think the AI space could be really good for liberal arts degrees like that, because I think
Completely agree.
there's going to be a vacuum for that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, definitely, Corey. The way I've expressed that to my audience too is that you should pretend that there are no coding tasks you can't do anymore. Right?
Yeah. I was just there. We actually got a comment in the chat about this. So Prof. Retod said, what about digital twin program managers? I cannot find a job in this current market. I can't code, but I understand the full life cycle of a digital thread for delivering a digital twin. From my perspective, I mean, I'd love to know more about why it is that you like, this seems like you're getting rejected from these roles. But I mean, I think at this point you have to learn how to use AI, like with something like Claude Code or Codex or Cowork, in order to code like at least specific things that are for your niche. Because I think that at a minimum, the AI can do a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, Dennis, I'd love your thoughts on how to respond to this, but.
Yeah. I mean, I get a lot of questions similar to this. So Professor, the first thing I would tell you is, why are you focused on digital twins? I wouldn't think of myself like that. I would think of myself as some sort of like an AI product manager, right? AI product managers, I think, are kind of like the way of the future, right?
Yeah.
Or at least for the short term, right? It'll evolve.
Yeah.
But you seem pretty locked into digital twins or digital threads, as you say. But what people really need are AI tools, and they need people that can kind of like orchestrate all that stuff that's out there and put it together. So that's what I would recommend to you.
And speak the language.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Yeah. Speak the language, you know, be pretty good with your prompts and kind of see the bigger picture, right?
Learn what kind of tools like that, what kind of software that the companies you're trying to apply for are building and do use, and see if you can spin up your own prototype versions of that on your own, perhaps, and see like, okay, because if you go to x.com, like there are so many wild demos of people creating these awesome visualizations and all these different ways that they're using coding agents to do kind of like data related stuff. So there's a lot of interesting examples on there that you can look at, but I mean, go deep in your niche, I would think. Yeah.
Right.
You know, and something that I think is important though is that when you're dealing with tools like a Codex, Claude Code, Gemini CLI, is that there are people that's really intimidating to if they're not already in some way familiar with software engineering, development, IT. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be an engineer who's familiar with that, but it is a thing that's intimidating, and mostly that stuff lives in that realm at this moment. But I assume that will change in short order, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let's try and Professor, what is an example problem set that you do that you face? You know, like with spreadsheets, for example, it seems like optimizing, building performance financials. Obviously, we can't spin up a machine learning model to do that type of thing. But what's an example project that we could test out right now that's in your category, and we can put it to the test with Codex and
sure.
Claude Code. Yeah, we'll try it.
And Grant, I wanted to touch on your earlier point about these examples that you see or like these projects that people put together.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to give some credit to those people, right? Because it takes
100%.
a little bit of like gumption or kind of like get up and go to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to start tying some of these things together, right?
Yeah.
And none of it is particularly hard per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's really more about just kind of having like that vision of, well, wait a minute, if I can get this and I can get that and I can bring them together, then I have something, right? So sometimes I get concerned that some people out there just aren't willing to do that, or they just haven't put in the time, right? I mean, you got to kind of spend some time doing the prompting. And that's kind of where the learning is, where the magic is, right?
Yeah, you have to get your hands on the tools and try them. I'm not even saying that as someone who like his job is doing that. Like I don't even have enough time in a day-to-day basis to test this stuff to the level I think I need to be.
And that being said, he does it all day. He's already doing it, and there's not enough time to do the rest of it. It's really wild.
I'm gonna see if I can come up with a prompt here for this. This is complicated, but
we did get a question here that I think is interesting, and
we're getting quite a full chat. Welcome everybody.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, if you haven't yet, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep doing these videos and lives and bringing you the best guests we can. And please pop by the Neuron.ai, sign up for our newsletter, and also you have to go follow Data Science with Dennis. Dennis, what's your handle, sir?
Yeah, on YouTube it's Data Science with Dennis, or on Instagram it's DS with Dennis. I believe both of them are in the description. So thanks for the shout out there, Corey.
You bet.
All right, so I'm going to pull up Cowork. I think Cowork is kind of exciting because it's the new one.
I'm sorry. I thought we were going to take that question, or.
Oh, take the question.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you guys, I'm pulling this up in the sidelines. So when we have something to report,
I was taking this thinking that'd give you a minute to get set up and rolling.
Let's do it.
This is interesting. And honestly, we might all have an opinion on it. I don't know. What is your take on the reluctance for some government agencies of using AI tools, specifically Gen AI tools?
Mm-hmm. Well, some of that reluctancy might be well founded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They should be.
That's the bottom line.
There's a lot of reasons for that. I think at a high level, how trustworthy is the AI model itself? Like, how do you know it's going to give you the right answer? In particular, also should you be sending the data that you want to work with over the cloud to any of these cloud providers who are running the models? Is that safe? Like, I don't know what kind of data we're talking about here, but if we're talking about people's private information that the government has, I mean, there was a lot of concern about that last year and what was being done with it. And then certainly if this is private data, in defense or that anything that's top secret, I mean, you would have to be doing that on-prem.
Yeah, I'd like to think the Pentagon's being real careful.
Yeah,
Right.
like they need a local data center that they have full control over. Please,
Right.
goodness.
I have a really
Yeah.
probably not the friendliest opinion on this, and it's that another concern is, what are your people going to do with it? They're not necessarily all trained, they're
Right.
not experienced. And when you have, something we've seen firsthand is that some people really get AI quickly. They understand kind of how it works, the way you have to think about things, and a new approach to stuff. But some people don't, uh, and think they do, which is even more dangerous, in my opinion. Like,
Mhm.
it's easy to feel like you get it. Like, we looked at a thing recently talking about people as beginner, intermediate, and advanced AI users. And I remember us having a little discussion, Grant and I, about how many of those intermediates are really beginners and how many of those maybe are reluctant to mark advanced that could have been, and how many in advanced are absolutely not advanced. Like, I would be curious to see what they think they are alongside where those skills really rank. Because the fact is, when you're in a business environment or a government environment, uh, poor AI use could be really bad. I mean, I think
Mhm.
upskilling has to be a key part of any AI rollout.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys might know the term better, but I believe that the term out there is called like these ghost AI projects that
Yeah.
can exist inside organizations, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you stop it? Like, how do you know that Jenny in accounting isn't doing something that they shouldn't be doing? They're well intended and they
Yeah.
want to advance their skills, but you can have people all across your organization doing things that they shouldn't be doing, right?
Yeah.
Um,
You can't.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's why, there was this first couple of years of Chat GPT. I've been in publishing for a long time. And one of the things that's really interesting is that the initial focus was, we've got to catch it. Like, we're
mhm,
gonna we're gonna catch it and we're gonna stop it. And
right,
was this initial reaction by, especially, at the editor level, publishers. And it was the wrong reaction, because in my opinion, that race was lost before they knew they were in a race.
mhm,
And the truth of the matter is, what they needed to be focused on, and what I'm grateful we were able to get focused on really quick, is teaching people, teaching
yeah,
both responsible use, quality use, trying to train people on how to think about your problems, and, like, understanding iteration. Because we're at a point now where, like it or not, they're going to be using it. I really just don't think it's realistic to expect that at any business right now, no one is touching it, even if you
yeah,
have rules that say you shouldn't. Maybe, I
sure.
don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable assumption, sure. Yeah. So I love the prediction show that you guys did, I think like 2 weeks ago or so.
Yeah,
And one of my predictions for 2026 is that you're gonna see the rise of foundational models. And so when I say that, I'm talking about like built for purpose models for particular industries or even particular companies.
yeah,
And most of those will come with some sort of an on-premise uh, approach because you're kind of building it from the ground up, right?
yeah,
So coming back to the question, I think that should help with some of that reluctance that government agencies might have, financial institutions, think tanks, stuff like that are going to have that. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen in 2026 per se, because
yeah.
foundational models still kind of need to be built up and things like that, right? And
Mhm.
agencies won't necessarily catch on early. But I think that's one of the ways you're going to start seeing that being addressed. When you can have those completely customized, built for purpose models that then are kind of reduce your probability of hallucinations and things along those lines.
Yeah,
So that's what I would also, just trying to bring it back to the question here, that as that happens more, there should, in theory, there should be a lower dependency on the open AIs of the world.
yeah. I can see that. And I think it even applies to smaller models. Something we're
Sure.
seeing a lot is that, initially, when LLMs were built out, and we're the companies are doing this, they're releasing these various models. It starts by scraping up as much data as you can, like the internet as a whole. And now what we're seeing is a lot of success with, instead of that random mess of internet data, a lot can happen with really highly curated data, training very small models that perform
Sure.
really highly, especially in, specific niche scenarios or on, your phone, edge devices. Um,
Mhm.
has been really interesting. And I think you're spot
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and that might be the way you solve that, right? That reluctancy or whatnot, because a smaller model is much more reasonable for you to host, on premise, and
Yeah.
speed, wouldn't be as much of a factor, both in training and in inference. So yeah, that could very well be where some of these companies
Yeah.
end up.
And I kind of like to think of, there's this idea to think that, you got to have the one model, who's the winner. But I tend to think you should think of all of these as tools in your box. Like, you don't own just one screwdriver. You don't even own just one Phillips head screwdriver. You might have 4 sizes. The fact of the matter is, all of these things are tools in your toolbox if you can use them. And
Yeah.
learning what's better for what is really key. Because, like, when you look across the models, everything's kind of uh has things where it shines, and other areas where maybe this particular model is a little weaker in creative stuff, but it's really great at coding or something. And
Mhm.
I think we'll see that along the way. And I'm just realizing Grant's been very quiet for an extended amount of time. I was wondering how he's doing over there.
Yeah, well, this is if you want to pull up my computer, I can show you what's been going
Oh,
on.
is it shared in there?
Yeah, it should
I
be.
don't see it.
Okay, interesting. Let me try again. Okay, you should be able to see it now. Okay, so this was based on the previous conversation. We'll do something that's a little bit more simple than this in the future. But for now, I said, let's create a scenario around this use case. First, create a plan.
What are you in here first?
Oh, yeah. So this is Claude Cowork. So for anyone who doesn't know, if you're only familiar with ChatGPT or you've never done anything with Claude, this is Claude. It has 3 different, I guess you could say, like, platforms. It has, it has the chat, it has Cowork, and it has Code. And Cowork is the new one. It's still a research preview at the moment, but you can think of it as Claude's version of Microsoft Copilot, for example. They might not want it called that way, but that's basically what it is. So you can do one task, and then multiple agents are assigned to it, and it can manipulate files directly on your computer for you. So it's basically like a terminal agent, but with a nice UI where you don't have to go into the scary terminal. They also have Code, which is this little guy here. And this is the cloud-based version of it, but you can code locally with it here.
How did I not know his name is Code?
Oh, is his name Code?
I thought you said you wiggled him and said this is Code.
Oh no, I think his name is Claude.
Oh,
I get confused because there's a tool called ClaudeBot, and basically ClaudeBot is like an agent extension that uses Claude more autonomously, but it's not affiliated. So to me, it's just Claude. But yeah,
gotcha. I saw it wiggle and made an assumption, and now I wish I could erase live stream.
Yeah. But so here's like basically like the entryway into Claude Cowork. Dennis, have you tried this yet? Have you got to play around with it?
Guys, I am not embarrassed to admit that I'm not a Claude fan. I hit the limits too quickly. I don't know what their plan is. Like I'm not gonna like re-up or just wait. I'm just gonna move on to another LLM. So I tried Claude. I hit the limits and I go back to ChatGPT.
Yep.
That's fair. That's real. I think that's a lot of people's user experience on this computer I'm on. I think the middle max tier. So it's not like the most expensive one, but you can definitely do a lot more with it for about $100 a month.
Nice.
But yeah, so here's just an example of some of the things you can do. You can create a file, you can crunch data, make a prototype, organize your files on your computer, prep for a meeting, draft them out. I mean, these are all like very, very basic examples. The example I was running here, as I said, let's create a scenario around this use case. First, create a plan for how we could create something in this space. Imagine you are a digital twin product manager, an architect who transitioned into this area, who needs to create tooling around data centers using CFD simulation. Full disclosure, I don't know what that is. For water cooling, air cooling, physics-based simulation to provide what-if analysis to optimize performance. And then it asked me a series of questions, which is actually pretty interesting. So it gives you like a list of like 3 or 4 like potential ways to approach the problem, or just things that it wants me to answer so that it can continue its work. And then I answered all of that, and then it basically decided, it said, okay, we should definitely connect some MCPs to do this. And so for people who don't know, an MCP is the Model Context Protocol. It's like basically the way that Claude or ChatGPT or any other AI model can communicate with other existing programs. So it's a very easy to understand server with all of the doc information and all of the API endpoints. So the two can talk to each other. So Claude can literally manipulate, in my example here, these are some of the ones I have set up right now. I have Godot, which is a video game tool. And then I have N8N, which is a workflow automation tool. Those are all connected. And then it gave some suggestions for ones that we would want to connect for this use case. So potentially Docker, a database, GitHub, file systems, OpenFOAM, which is for CFD, I guess, Paraview, Python. Then it came up with a plan, and I said, phase 1, let's go. And then what happened is it started working, and you could see all of the things that it went out and did. So it does an update to-do list, and then it goes out and searches, and it does multiple searches in a row. Then it updates its to-do list based on what it's found. Then it read the skills MD. Now it has all the research it needs. So then it created this page document here. Let's see. Well, this is new. This came out last week, and they built it in a week and a half. So the UI is a little funky. I could open it in Pages, for example. Let's go ahead and do that. But yeah, so it put together a complete plan for what to build here.
That's pretty cool. So Grant, I'm assuming you kind of started that prompt based on the previous question that we had, right?
Correct.
For somebody who's looking to be a digital twin product manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see if they're still in the chat and if they could give, some feedback on this, because what you're doing here is you're kind of highlighting what I mentioned earlier of like, have you put in the time, right? Because like this took you all of like 10 minutes, right?
Right.
So when somebody says that, it's like, well, it doesn't really take a lot of effort. You just kind of have to do it, right? I mean, you've come up with what seems to be a fairly viable plan, or at least first steps, within just a couple of minutes.
Yeah. I mean, totally. And then from here, now we can go into the architecture and technical design. So how we would actually, build this and then come up with a plan for it.
Right.
As far as taking it to market, and then create a visual prototype. In this case, it's saying, based on what I have connected, could use Godot. But for instance, if you use certain tools that you're really good at, you could connect to an MCP server for that tool. Like, I don't know, maybe it's CAD or something like that. And then you could connect to it, and you can actually chat with Claude working inside CAD and giving it feedback and having it iterate and change things in your files for you. Whatever tool you are good at, like that should be your domain to start with, and then see how much faster, how much you can iterate, just how it changes your workflow, because it's really, really, mind-blowing to work with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to try?
Obviously, we have to dig deeper into it, but this seems like a completely viable plan here.
Well, that's why you got to be careful with AI, because we don't know what we're talking about with this document, but someone with any amount of expertise would be able to look at this and see where it's flawed and where it's on the money. But that's where it's like, hey, you can start with a draft, and you can go in and make tweaks, or you can give it feedback and say, hey, this part's not right on page 12 is not right, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, let's ask that.
Okay, so he's still here, the original
Yeah.
original person that asked. That's great.
Good. Someone to look and tell us, is this decent?
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, that, and also just to kind of satisfy my curiosity, right?
Right.
What has prevented you from getting to this stage, right? Because the three of us on the chat here, we're lay people to this particular, niche of engineering. But I mean, within a few minutes here, you got to some really interesting results, right? So
yeah.
So how much time are other people spending on this? You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to be kind because I don't want to sound antagonistic on your stream or anything.
How long would this take a human kind of question?
Well, somebody who knows more about this, right?
Yeah.
Like, Grant admitted he doesn't know what CFD is, and that's okay. You don't have to for AI. But if somebody who did know about
dynamics, and I know because I read it in the chat.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
So what happens when somebody in the chat who does know about this spends time with Claude? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's what always kind of makes me wonder. Like, have you put in the time?
For people who are just streaming in, so what we're doing is we're testing what's called Claude Cowork, and Claude Cowork is Claude's basically like Claude Code for the rest of us. It's sort of like their Microsoft Office suite that can actually work with files directly on your computer. And what it's doing here is it's creating a document. I can open.
It's only available on Mac too, by the way, right?
It's only available on Mac at the moment, but you can use what's called Claude Code. And Claude Code can do all of this just inside your terminal, which sounds intimidating, but we're going to have Dennis show us how he uses Codex, and hopefully that won't be too intimidating. But I trust Dennis can make it look easy.
It's nice to finally hear things that are only available for Mac first. That doesn't happen very often.
That's funny.
It's funny in the AI space. I feel like it always happens. Perplexity Comet and OpenAI's Atlas browser. None of that came to Windows first. The AI crowd is very Mac first,
which is great. I'm here for that.
Somebody asked, what are the best MCPs for real estate? I'm going to go ahead and ask that.
MCPs for real estate. Wow.
Ooh.
I imagine something that connects to whatever database has the most information on
Zillow
local listings. Yeah. Or there's one that
real estate databases historically are not friendly to outsiders.
No.
You're right. They're very closed off because it's a great business model.
Yeah. With that said, you can create your own MCPs as well for various sites. Isn't that correct?
You can. So basically, you could create a custom MCP for anything that you can connect to via API. That wouldn't necessarily solve the problem Dennis is talking about, though, which is
if a closed API.
Yeah, if they have a closed API, you probably have to pay through the teeth to access it. So, good luck. But Zoom Info, that's a good one. Moody's, financial risk analysis. Guru. Oh yeah, we know Guru. We made a video about them.
We did.
No free ads, but we did make a video with them. It was really cool. They aren't currently dedicated. Yeah, this is the one. MLS access.
Yeah, MLS. That makes sense.
Yeah, these guys probably want you to connect directly through them.
Yeah.
And Grant, if we take the meta view here, I love the fact that you're kind of taking this view of, look, I don't know the answer. It's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I bet AI knows the answer, right? And I've taken that view also in some of the coding, that I've done, where I don't know every Python library that's out there, but I bet there's an MLS library out there. Let me go look that up, and let me go ask.
Codex does. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. So, so Grant, I love that meta view you're taking of, well, let me bootstrap myself into the bootstrap, so then I can finally get into something else. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I really hope that people in the chat can kind of start taking that away from this and saying, well, wait a minute, I don't have to have all the answers. I've got this this great AI assistant that I can use to get parts A, B, and C that I can then get to my final result, right? It's not always a straight path to the final result. Sometimes you have to kind of build those components along the way.
Wow.
Dennis, you want to show us a rival demo on Codex? Because what I can do is while you're pulling up yours, I can run another one on this one, and we can kind of compare and contrast.
I might just pull up Gemini.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it. We'll make it a 3-legged race.
So are we going to stay on the MLS example? Because I was thinking maybe we could also talk a little bit about data.
Let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that to most people, or at least one of the questions that I get a lot is, well, how can I get a data set? Where do I get data to learn from? Should I be using Kaggle for my data sets? Blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And to me, that's basically a solved problem, right? Like it's not very difficult to either find data or have LLMs create synthetic data for you. So I was thinking, if you want me to show some Codex stuff, we can just kind of start with that. How do I start with zero, with nothing?
Yeah.
And have Codex or ChatGPT create a data set for me, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm willing to cook that up on my end, or Corey, if you want to do that with Gemini, or however you guys want to do this, but I can definitely start prompting over on my end.
I say let's do your end first.
And then we'll do the same prompt on ours.
And I'll do the same prompt. We can share it in our little private chat here.
Okay.
Try the same thing in Gemini and Claude.
Okay. So am I pressing the present button over on my end, or how should I best do that?
Yeah, you'll hit the down at the bottom center of your screen. You should see a screen with a plus sign, and it'll let you pick what you want to share.
Okay.
And then once it's up, Iku will bring you up. I'm gonna drop mine in there too, and we're gonna see if StreamYard breaks. This is actually a StreamYard stress test.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's me up there.
Boom.
Okay. Yeah. So, chat, I am completely open to you guys helping me with the prompts, right? Because I think prompting is definitely a skill. So if you guys see me make a mistake, feel free to put it in the chat or whatever, because I am more than happy to be wrong and to kind of modify chat or modify my prompts, right? So what I want to start is, let me just kind of start typing here.
All right.
So to clarify, right now, Dennis, while he's typing, he is using Cursor and he's chatting with Codex, which is ChatGPT's coding model.
This is actually Visual Studio, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my bad. Oh,
yeah. It looks like Cursor, right? Because Cursor is a branch and all that, right?
Right.
But
yeah, that's the Visual Studio logo. I see it now.
yeah. So thanks for bringing that up, Grant. Because actually, I also wanted to say, if you guys you guys check out my previous videos, I've always been somebody who uses like the traditional ChatGPT window to create my code. So this is like Codex is the first tool where I've really adopted it as the Visual Studio plugin, right? Like Cursor, right? Cursor's a plugin. I never really liked the Cursor integration. I never really had a lot of success with Cursor. So this is new for me to kind of be working just within Visual Studio. Previously, I would prefer to have that ChatGPT window and then just really copy and paste it over. So that's one of the parts of Codex that I have liked, that their integration to Visual Studio is really slick, really slick.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm starting off by specifying that I want it to be Python code. So in data science, for those of you that don't know, we have what are known as our dependent variable and our independent variables, right? The dependent variable is usually some sort of value that you're trying to predict, right? And then your independent variables are basically your factors, right? Or the elements that go into coming up with the dependent variable. So that's how I like to think about it when I do my prompts, where I can say, look, I want you to hold steady some sort of result column, the dependent variable, and then come up with other variables, other factors that can then give me some sort of answer, right? So just to kind of illustrate that, your dependent variable might be a yes or no for whether a message is spam, right? A message is spam or it's not. That's the dependent column. The independent is the text of the email or the different things that the model looks for, right? It's going to look for certain words or certain formatting or whatever that marks it as spam, right? So that's the kind of way I like to think about how I'm going to how I'm going to formulate my prompt. So let me kind of finish this out here. Also, I'm going to specify that it's going to be structured data. Easiest way to explain that is it's basically a tabular data, like an Excel sheet. Excuse me. And I do that because it's kind of like the easiest format to work with and save and things along those lines, right? But I want to specify that it's structured data. So that gives us an opportunity to specify the number of columns. So we're going to say it has 8 columns. And we're going to say that the first one is the dependent variable that I want to predict in the future. So here's where I am applying a little bit of domain knowledge from data science, where I'm saying it can be a linear formula or some sort of regression formula, which is kind of your traditional y equals mx plus b, which you might have heard in other situations, right? Where y is what you're solving for, the dependent variable, and then the mx and the b are the other variables that come up to make up that number, the factors, right? So we're going to go ahead and let the codex do that. And then now all we have to do is just kind of specify, right? How many rows do we want? And what do we want it to be saved as, right? Just to kind of, be a little bit pedantic, but LLMs work better that way, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Someone was saying in the chat, as Robert, priorities and constraints. So constraints, that could also be potentially like the output format. Like, I wanted to output it in this, Excel file type. Yeah.
Yep. So thank you for that. That's exactly right. So I'm going to ask it to save it as data.csv. Now, to be clear, here I'm asking it to create the Python script that's going to give us the data. So we also need to name the Python file itself, right? Please name the Python file data generator.csv and save it in the current folder. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to send it to you guys, right? Because I think that's what you wanted. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Corey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll run that on mine and Corey will run it on his.
While you guys are doing that, I'm going to let this fly on my end. Now, I've done this before, by the way, guys, in other live streams I've done. For a long time, my preferred coding engine was ChatGPT 4.0. For some reason, 4.0 was just reliable for code. And it was very fast. So I kind of know what this code should look like. It should tell us what formula it's using and give us some variables to change, whether it's 10,000 records or 20,000 records, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see what it comes up with.
Excellent. I'm having a tiny hang up loading Gemini. I got into a situation where it wanted to do an update and it was doing it on another screen and I didn't realize it. And now I'm solving a minor
live demo dilemma.
The live demo dilemma. That's right.
Yeah. This is cool. So can you tell us, for folks who don't know, Dennis, what's happening here?
Yeah, sure. Oh, and also just one more thing I wanted to mention. You'll also notice that I kind of have my screen half and half between Codex and the window. And the reason I do that now, I haven't always done that, but the reason I do that is because Codex has been so good in one-shotting these problems for me that I
Right.
almost care more about a good prompt. And the coding window is just like reliable, right?
Yeah.
So
You get the
so yeah,
prompt right.
happy to
Yeah.
walk through it, but we're definitely reaching a state where it's like I'm trusting the code more and more. So like pretty soon I'll be in a situation where I'm like this, right? The dominant window will always be the prompting, and if I can get that right, this over here is like just a formality, right? So coming back to those people who are asking about coding and their jobs, like yeah, like I see a time where you'll be like, yeah, you know what, that prompt felt pretty good. I'm just gonna run the code, like not even check it, like it's gonna be right, right?
Yeah. I think just like with other things, you're going to kind of, the more you use an LLM, the more you learn where you can and can't trust it.
Sure.
And the truth is that that range started about here,
Mhm.
and it just keeps getting bigger. And that's what I think more intelligent models do over time is we become more trustworthy with bigger tasks than what we did in the beginning.
For sure. For sure. And all in what, 3 years?
3 years,
And
just over it.
arguably less, right? Because we didn't really start with coding straight out LLMs, right? That was kind of like after year one, right?
Right.
So 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does 5 years look like? What does it look like if you're a freshman in a CS program right now, right? And you're like 3, 4 years away from working in industry,
It looks
I'd
like
be worried.
doom right now, if I had to guess. I've wondered that, and I really don't envy people who are coming of age right now, because
Mhm.
you're leaving high school before they've figured out what they should be teaching you and what you need to learn young, and you're getting to college before they really understand what they're going to teach you. So
Mhm.
you're in this weird gap right
Yeah.
now where, like, and they're starting to understand, okay, we need good AI literacy. Great. They can build some courses around that. We need practical AI knowledge in every field around a university. Okay, we can
Mhm.
build some entry level courses around that to help get them accustomed.
Right.
But so many places aren't even at that level yet.
Sure.
I feel really bad for teenagers graduating high school, is what I keep thinking. I'm like, man, you're just not ready right now
Yeah.
for
Yeah, well, I
the
think
other
you're on
side
the
of that
right
door.
track earlier when you're talking about the humanities or liberal arts,
Hmm.
because you could be doing the AI stuff on your own,
Yeah,
right? You don't have to just learn in the classroom. You could go home and every night do 1 to 2 hours of your own AI prompting and graduate in a better spot.
that was my strategy. My undergrad strategy was very much, my degree is something I love. It's a passion thing, and my minor is something I want to use to make a living.
Mm,
And when you look
yeah,
back to the history of a university, back to Plato era, that was the idea. It was meant to be a place for you to
yeah,
go and learn to think.
yeah,
It wasn't about, okay, you're going to go there and get a job. Now, there's a practical reality of today. Like, we can't fix that.
right,
Like, the practical reality of today is that you're going to have some kind of continuing education. But I
sure,
would argue that right now, if you had an interest in software development, I would boot camp it. I would go to one of those, 6, 9 month boot camps, whatever, learn what you can learn, and give the colleges another year to figure it out if you think you want to go there.
yeah, absolutely. By the way, I'm sorry here, but this is catching my attention in the chat. Kimmy is beating most LLMs. Kimmy K2, that is. Yeah, Kimmy K2 is great. I'm sorry, guys, but I am not going to give my information just to run a single prompt. Kimmy doesn't even let you run a sample prompt without opening an account. I'm sorry, but I draw the line
No
there.
joke.
Okay.
I am not a fan of Kimmy.
So Dennis, you're late. You're late, bro. So you can
Oh,
actually run Kimmy on some of these other cloud servers because they can make a copy of it. So you don't have to give your information. You don't have to run it directly through, Kimmy's website. In fact, I probably wouldn't actually for most people. What you do in that instance is you find another provider, and the tool we usually recommend is artificial analysis. And you go there and you pick a provider that's running it the cheapest or the most efficiently, whatever your specific benchmarks are, and then you can run. They'll spin up their own version of Kimmy and run it for you. And I did it where I set it up on Fireworks and ran it locally in my computer. Like it's still going to Fireworks' cloud instance, but yeah, so you can do it without sending any data anywhere. So
very cool.
Yeah,
I have a thought here.
But that's fair. That's a good.
It is a very good point.
Yeah.
Thought. I don't know that it can do this because it's not going to be able to create files. Never mind. I was thinking, what if I took, because I'm not able to load Gemini. I was thinking, what if I took Dennis's prompt and put it into Mercury? And
let's try whatever.
And saw what a diffusion model would do with it.
While you're pulling that up, I can share what I did on mine if you want to.
Go ahead, because that'll take me just a minute.
Yeah. By the way, I never walked through this code because we're talking about other good things. But generally speaking, this code looks great to me on my end. So I'm curious to see what you came up with, Grant.
Yeah, I mean, not knowing what I was doing, right, and just running exactly what you said. I'm not a data science professional here.
That's okay. That's the whole point.
Yeah. So my screen is up. You can share. So I ran Dennis's exact prompt. I said, I want to work on a data science project. I need a data set. I want you to create some Python code that creates a synthetic data set. I want the data to be structured data and have 8 columns, et cetera, et cetera. So it went to work on that. It created the Python code, which couldn't be opened, obviously. Then it ran the data generator script to create the CSV. So then it's created both of the files, and then it's explained the data set structure here. Sorry if you guys can hear that.
I don't hear it. Is it the chainsaw guy again?
Yeah.
Somebody's always running a chainsaw outside of Grant's apartment.
Yeah, we got to work on that. And then basically I said, can you open and run it? And then it ran the test. So it ran the project and it created the file with 10,000 records and 8 columns. And then it showed the only thing is I'm a little bit
Are you afraid it actually only did 50 rows?
Yeah.
That's a thing LLMs tend to do. I was going to say, I would just open the CSV on your desktop and see.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. That looks like 10,000 rows to me.
Nice.
It's certainly some.
Wow.
Okay.
Let me do that same check on my end, but it also looks like 10,000 on my end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm going to bring yours back up for just a second, Dennis.
Yeah, we'll share the prompt.
Well, before we leave Grant, I'm sorry. So this is going to be the data science nerd in me. So one of the things I noticed in my code that Codex generated is they also added a seed for all of the random elements. And that is something that is valuable because it lets you recreate these data sets in the future, right? If you reuse the seed, it should get you the same data set. And that can be important when you're sharing it across teams, right? Yeah. So if we're kind of looking for those little benchmarks, those little nuances, Grant, I'd like to see if your code also gave you a seed, your Python code. So are you able to bring that up? I can probably try to spot it from my end.
Yeah, I might have to open it in an IDE. Let me do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those of you in the chat, these are like those small nuances that I get it. If you're not a computer programmer, you might not know these things. But these are the ways that I think you can kind of start to really kind of put a finer edge on, oh, this LLM is a little bit better than this one because it understood that nuance, right? But a seed can be important for when you work on these long-term data science projects and you need to recreate data sets from one day to the next, one instance to the next, from your development environment to your production environment, right? Stuff like that is kind of necessary.
You mind if I share the prompt in the chat? Someone's asked if they could see it.
Oh yeah, sure, go for it. Yeah.
By the way, I noticed that mine actually got cut off because of, I think, the character count on our streaming tool here.
Oh, you're right. Oh, and
was there anything missing in saving on yours?
Oh, it just cut this into several different comments. Oh my gosh.
Because maybe potentially what happened is I left off.
Kimmy likes to skate on thin ice on getting output. That's startling.
I love it.
That's not a good endorsement of Kimmy. Gee.
I spend a lot of time playing with open source models, and
do you?
And I'll tell you what, some of those get different. Especially if you get into some of the open source reasoning models and you watch their train of thought and look what they're going through, and like they might talk forever given the opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, some of them you do kind of wonder, like, are we gonna reach an answer here? You're wandering pretty far.
Let's see. Grant, you want me to bring up mine? Were you pulling up a?
Yeah, for some reason it won't let me open it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll pull you down for just a minute. I'm going to bring me up.
Well,
and show you what I
think I just heard Grant say that Codex won that round. I'm pretty sure. Grant...
Okay, I'll concede.
I heard it. I heard it.
That's fair.
For what it's worth, there was a tweet from Altman today saying that in the last 30 days, since Codex 5.2 dropped, that their recurring revenue from API use has gone up $1 billion this month.
You know what? I can totally see that because Codex is good. It is a genuinely good product, and I'm pretty critical. I don't say that lightly. So I'm
a fan of all of them. Is the truth of it, and that's me being hyper excited boy here. But I've spent some time with Claude Code, with Gemini, and with Codex. And each has something they're really good at, in my opinion. Like I found Claude Code to be really flexible. It has additional like functions that aren't available in some of the other tools. With that said, I found Codex to be a bit smarter, and that's using their latest model on high reasoning, of course. And I found Gemini's CLI to be lightning fast, but it ain't nothing compared to what I'm about to show you when it comes to speed. This is from Inception Labs. This is created by Dr. Stefano Orman, who's a professor at Stanford, and it is a diffusion-based large language model. So instead of, for anyone who doesn't know, I'll run through this real quick. Instead of generating token at a time to come to an answer, what this does is it generates nonsense, and then it cleans it up. And then it cleans it up, and then it cleans it up. And I have turned on this diffusion effect button right here, so you'll be able to see how it does it. And the truth is, it's one of the craziest things I've ever watched. It's also the cheapest API I know of. It's $1 per million output tokens, which is nothing. I did have to cut your prompt off at I want 10,000 records because first off, I don't know that it'll go that far because these are just a bit behind traditional transformer-based LLMs. But I know it doesn't have access to create a folder and a file and a folder and share things. So I just wanted to see what it'll do with it and show you what diffusion looks like. So watch this and don't blink because it's neat. Oh, and it's already going slow. Now I'm floored.
You really built up the speed aspect, Corey.
I really built this up, didn't I?
Especially on the speed aspect.
This could be latency. It doesn't look like it's actually processed the prompt yet.
Yeah, you're actually. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I could also stand to log in, maybe do it in a window that's not the same window I'm streaming high definition video out of.
Yeah, well, it could be on their end.
Yeah. Okay, hang on. Well, you know what? Let's do something different, just for the sake of doing this. Somebody give me.
Corey, while you're doing that, I think you're bringing up a interesting point there. On what is your definition of a good coding, right?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned a couple different benchmarks there, right? And for me, my personal gold standard is always the one shot, right? How close can you get me right away? That's what I'm looking for, because I don't really care how the code looks or diffusion model versus others. I just want the code to work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what makes coding an easy thing for AI to be good at, is it's verifiable, right? The code either runs or it doesn't.
You know, that's kind of when vibe coding something, my real approach is like, you know, sure, there are definitely things in there that could be better that maybe don't meet a best practice, but does it work? And I mean, yeah. You know, and if it does work, you've done something there here. Let me
Well, yeah, and and that's one of the reasons when I tell you guys that I'm a big fan of Codex, it's because I've done Python, I've done some bash scripting, and then I've done some command line stuff. Like I use FFmpeg a lot for my social media, right? So
Yeah.
if I see a tool that can help me one shot all those 3 completely different types of coding tasks, that's impressive to me, right?
It is impressive.
So I'm just throwing it out there as a thinking point for anybody else in the chat too. Like, what does it mean to you to have a good coding tool, right? Like, I'm choosing one shot. Corey likes the technology behind it and the speed, right? That sounds important to use, Corey. But it can be different for
honestly,
everybody.
I'm not
right?
big on speed, but this is
Okay.
fast enough. It always jars me a little.
Okay.
Foremost expert.
But the point is, we can all choose for ourselves, right? I mean, what does it mean to you to have a good code? So the professor put another question. How many people that label themselves as AI experts in the field are actually AI experts? What do you need to actually know to become an AI expert?
This is a great question. I was actually typing a response, and I was going to say, it depends. Are you asking from a hiring perspective, like what the people in your field want, or what just generally would qualify someone as an AI expert? Because it's a very vague term. So
it
We
is.
need to narrow it down. Because
oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, everyone go ahead.
I didn't see your mouth moving.
No, go ahead and answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've put a prompt in here just for the sake of showing this off because it impresses.
Well, I'm sorry, Corey. Before we leave this question, I'm sorry. I just want to suggest to the professor that realize that in your question is where the opportunity lies. Right? Yep. If you can't define what an AI expert is, then go out and build up your skills to become an AI expert.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It's a little bit murky out there, and there are some charlatans out there. There's plenty of those. But view it as an opportunity to really build up your skills. But I'm sorry, Corey.
Spend time in the tool. That's my number one piece of advice to everybody is take an entry level prompt engineering course just to get an understanding of like how to talk to one, how to think about a prompt. Because I think that's highly valuable no matter what your opinion on prompt engineering is as a profession idea. But from there, spend hours in the tool. Ask it about things you love, things you enjoy. Don't ask it about your job. Ask it about things you know inside out, where you can read a response and be like, that's good, but that's gibberish. You need to be able to understand that. And the best way to do that is asking it about, maybe that's Major League Baseball. Maybe that's makeup. I don't know. Whatever it is, talk to it about it. And I found that really, really helped me along the way. Now, I'm asking a stupid question here, just so you're aware. You are the world's foremost expert on canine husbandry and UFOs. A curious journalist is interviewing you. Explain your field's most counterintuitive finding in a way that makes the journalist say, wait, that can't be right, before you convince them. All right. Now, diffusion effect is on. Whoa, here we go. We're going to do this again, and hopefully I won't have to be embarrassed. Oh, for the love of God.
So you changed the prompt, right?
I did.
Okay.
There's something on their end, Corey. I don't know.
You know what I think it is? I think it's because I'm not logged into my account. I'm going to drop this, and I'm going to bring it up in my window that's logged into my actual Mercury account. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. In the meantime, we can pull my stream back up because I want to show. So I was finally able to open the Python file.
Cool.
So I don't know why it was restricted. It was restricted for some reason. But so this is what it created. It does have a random seed. Is that what you were talking about?
Yep. That's good.
Yeah. So how is this looking to you?
Yeah, so far it looks fairly standard.
Cool. I'm telling you, all of these tools are so good now. It's crazy.
I know, it's really
Pick
amazing.
Pick a favorite, run with it. They'll all get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
So what's
another
jumping out at
used-
me here, Grant, is
Yeah.
your tool took just a little bit of a different approach because it did create like a pandas data frame in a very formal way, right? So it's using a very formal Python coding style. For those of you in the chat, you'll recognize that, right? We're using NumPy, we're using pandas, we're filling up a data frame, so on and so forth. So I think that the code that you're showing, Grant, is a little bit more elegant than the one that I had, because the one I had is basically literally just like building the CSV line by line, kind of like not in a brute force way, but in a very repetitive looping way, right?
Right.
But the funny thing is that we're both going to get to the same end result. It's
Right.
just that your code looks different than mine, but we both end up with the same, what data.csv that we specified in the prompt, right?
Yeah.
So is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. Is that a good thing? Not necessarily. But we got to the same end goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what's jumping out at me. And you're what you're showing here is much more elegant code than what I have. And also, I mean, what's your line count? My line count's only 63 lines, right? Yours
Yeah,
is
this is-
significantly more than that.
Yeah. And that's something that's kind of known about Opus, which is what the model is running under the hood is Opus 4.5.
Okay.
I think the Claude models are usually more verbose. And
A
I've
little more
heard
windy.
that
Yeah.
And I've heard that the Codex models, the GPT models, are really good at long tasks where you let them go off and cook, which kind of explains what you were talking about with the sort of like brute force looping, where it's just kind of it's going off and it's going to come up
Yeah.
with the answer eventually
Right.
on its own. So they're kind of two different quirks. I wouldn't say
Right.
they're problems, but yeah.
Right. Now, I will say that I'm also happy that on my end, it created a Python file, it created the CSV, it created it right in my Visual Studio
Yeah.
window. So I'm ready to go, right? I'm ready to go. I don't have to copy and paste anything. I can
Yeah.
move on to that second step. I'm not sure we can say that about Claude right now.
Well, actually, you could very easily run Claude in the IDE, just like Codex. You could do it actually the exact same
That's
way.
true.
Yeah. So
That's true.
yeah, so you could do it that way if that's what you wanted. This is convenient. I would say so. Cowork is convenient for people who maybe aren't even trying to do coding tasks like this. Like perhaps this is better for someone who is just trying to make a spreadsheet or is just trying to make files to run on their computer, and they're just going to be messing with the executable. Whereas if you're actually coding and you're working in the code base and you want to see it, you probably want to use an IDE or a command line terminal like the one that I've been using since we met up with what's his name, Alexander
Mullen.
Baracos. Well, no, this is
Alexander and Baracos. You're right.
This is a Ghosty is the command line terminal that I was using, so that's what I've been using lately.
Okay.
It does have a baller logo.
Yeah,
They got a cool little dude.
Yeah, but that's that then you would have to spin up a UI as well.
Okay, I'm going to take strike 3 here, or I'm going to get a hit.
Corey.
I'm logged into my account. I'm in a totally different Google account, and we'll see if it's.
You don't want to try the original one, the data generation?
I can. Let me run this.
Let's do the data.
Let's
keep it on brand. Let's do the data one.
let me run this one first, since I've already got it in there, and I'm going to put the data one in right after it and see what happens.
On canine husbandry.
Here you go.
Oh, there it is.
Oh wow!
Snap.
Is that not insane? I don't even care about speed, and that floors me every time I see it. Hang on, I'm going to grab the prompt. What I'm pretty confident I can run of it here, and we'll throw it in now to stay on brand with the data today. Can I load? I can't load Mercury Coder. Okay, we'll see what happens. They do have a coding model.
Yeah, I think you just have to. Well, you're probably not subscribed to them, right? Okay. This is also NumPy and Pandas.
Random seed.
Also has a random seed.
Okay.
$93 lines. Data to CSV. Okay.
Very, very similar to Grant's code or the Claude code, I should say.
I'll be honest. That's
Much
I
deeper.
didn't really expect that. Hang on. Do we even get the? Don't copy it to clipboard. Let me.
It copied the CSV to clipboard. Jeez.
I wonder if it'll let me do it. If it'll give me a CSV with 10,000 records in it, I'm gonna flip out of my chair. I'll be.
Does it have? I wonder. Does it have the file, like the tools to create the file?
I don't know. That's what I
Open
was.
Sheets. Open Sheets and copy that in and see what happens.
Oh,
Do sheets.new and
That's a
see if
good
you can
idea.
copy it in.
oh, hang on. Install Python. Install the required library. Save the script. Run the script. Locate the CSV. You can. Oh,
Yeah, but that means you have to have all that stuff.
I have to go run the script.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe just try and copy the CSV that it says it copied and put it in the sheets.new.
I don't see where I can copy the CSV. Oh, like what's in my
I thought it gave you an option to do that above. Maybe not.
Wait, Grant, how do you do the sheets thing?
Type in sheets.new.
That rocks my world. I did not know that.
Yeah. Okay, now. Nope, that's just the code.
That's
So
just the code. That's
go
what I
back to the top. I think it was the top part.
Okay.
Yeah, it was after the first prompt. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I see where Grant's going with this.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yes. Try that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Nope,
No.
it's just the code line. Okay.
Yeah, I knew going into this does not have access to the same tools, and I'm not sure off the top of the hand. And please don't hold this against the guys at Inception. What they've built is really impressive, and
Well, yeah, basically did the
diffusion for
same
LLMs
script.
is still catching up, but not by much, it appears. Now that
Yeah.
that was not a thing I expected to happen at all. I'm going to save this. And I do not have an IDE on this computer. But I'll bet that'll generate it. Anybody want to, either of you want to, did I save the file? I could send it. We could see if it'll create it. That would be the good test. If anybody wants to run it through an IDE.
Yeah, if you can send it to me somehow, I can put it into my IDE.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I don't know
Cool.
how we're going to do that. You want
Copy.
to email it again?
Or you can do it in Google Docs.
Yeah, I guess I was gonna put it in a text file. In a text file, you don't get the goofy spaces that you get in a Google Doc, because those can keep it from running. I know. Save as. We're gonna call you Mercury data. All right. Text file. I think text file is the way to do that. Yeah, I think so. It'll go through that way to you. It should. All right. Send this over here. There's Dennis. Dennis, I'm just going to reply to this thread we already have going and drop it to you. And we'll see if all three of these can generate the code. I'll be tickled to death, because that was not just wasn't a thing on my bingo card. I sound like a redneck today. My apologies. All right. Email sent. We're going to pull me down. Dang, it was fast.
What's another?
Again,
that's funny.
It's really
what's
satisfying. I
another
run a lot of
data
prompts
science
through it
task?
just to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, other data
I
science.
was just
tasks?
wondering, what's another data science task that you do often, Dennis? I would love to know, like, another thing. Like, for example, you've mentioned here 2 tasks that you've done before that could be fun, like linear regression or even neural networks.
Yeah. So remember, we've only done like the first part of that, right? Where we just have the generated data.
Yeah.
So the next part of this would be to treat that as an input and say, hey, I know this data follows some sort of algorithm. Please create a training or train a new model, and then go ahead and give me some metrics around that, right?
Yeah.
So if you guys want, we can do that because I think that's also beneficial.
I think
Yeah,
that'd
that
be
sounds
really
awesome.
cool.
Let's do it.
But now you're actually doing data science, right? Because right now we've just been creating a
Generating
synthetic data set.
spreadsheets. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I'd
yeah,
love
you guys
to
want to
do
do
that.
that? We can definitely do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I'm going to bring up Codex again. And I think I can keep working in the same context. No, you know what? I think let's start a new one just to kind of keep things clean, right?
There you go.
Yeah, let's do it.
So basically, before I start typing, and for the benefit of the chat, so now we're really going to do data science. And the way you do that is you have your training set. You want to split it up into training and testing. You want to try a model, and then you want to train the model, and you want to get some metrics around your true positives, your true negatives, your false positives, false negatives, and just kind of trying to build up a model, right? So we know what the math should look like behind it, but we'll have to pretend we don't. What we do know is that there's 8 columns. One of them is the target variable, the dependent variable, what we're trying to solve for. And then the other variables are the ones that we're trying to kind of like use, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to prompt to that effect, right? So one of the keys to data science and where I think agents can really help us is that there's an experimentation side to data science where you have to try multiple models. You can't just say, I'm going to try one model and then that's it, right? So here we can go ahead and have it run multiple models and say, hey, I want you to run at least 3 different models and show me the results for each of them. And there we're kind of using to me, that's like a nice distinct break between I'm just writing a prompt versus I'm going to let this act as an agent working on my behalf, right? So that's kind of where I'm going to go with this prompt. I'm
fascinated.
Putting different models to create for this data. Each model should be saved in its own Python file and named with the approach. Also present the model performance metrics. So in data science, it's called a confusion matrix.
Okay.
That tells you what all how your model is performing. So I'm going to ask for that for each model. I'm also asking for its own individual Python files because some of these models can get a little weird or a little complex.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure that it's not going to just all mix them up in one file.
That's
Because that
smart.
would be super messy.
Yeah.
I didn't describe the data enough. CSV in data.csv. Let's look at that real quick. Yeah, there's a target variable, so that's what we want. The first column is named target, and that should be the dependent variable that we are trying to solve for. All right, let me read this again. File name data. I have a misspelling there.
I used to fix those, and I have gotten to the point where now when I'm talking to AI, I just vomit words, and sometimes they get a little messy. And unless it's something like this that's more technical, and here I would absolutely fix my typos.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. It's amazing how good the models are understanding what you really want, right?
I always feel like if I watch the real reasoning traces, I'd see it and be like, this idiot can't spell door.
But yeah, I think this prompt looks good. So one other thing I also wanted to point out how the codex created the Python, the inception data generator, and then it also oh, what the heck? Oh my!
What happened?
I just spotted an error, guys. I didn't catch this the first time.
Hey.
It didn't create a Python file. It created the code as a CSV file.
Oh no!
There you go.
You guys see that?
Yeah.
I specified that this should be a Python file, and it did understand that this is Python code.
It is Python,
but it's in the CSV.
Oh my gosh.
That's how you know we're like doing this live and we're like our brains are in 3 different places.
Yeah.
None of us saw that. But yeah,
I'm surprised no one in the chat caught it.
Yeah, nobody. Well, but here's the reason. Why didn't it catch it? It didn't catch it because it ran it for us, right? That's in the history of Codex, right?
Yeah.
In the previous chat, where it let me copy paste. Let me just copy.
This is where you go back and see that you actually typed, call it a CSV.
Right, but that's why, right? Because it actually ran it for us, so we didn't need to check, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of comes back to our previous conversation where you're just going to accept that the code is correct. We didn't even check for the file extension here, guys, or the file format, because it ran it on its own in the background. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, I would like to add that it's interesting that it ran it.
Yeah,
that's true.
So Corey, if we take that a little further, that means it ran it in memory.
Yeah.
Right? Because it took the generated code in memory and ran that. It didn't save it as CSV. It wouldn't have executed in CSV.
That's right.
So it did it all in memory to spit out the data.csv.
So it made I mean, it's really a minor error as long as you notice it, but it made an error and it didn't matter because because it still got the right result. It's like someone doing math wrong and still landing at the right finish.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I cannot believe I didn't notice that. But you know, again, that's us taking it for granted that, hey, the code's probably right. Yeah.
Yep. Looks good.
You know.
Sure it is. Sitting right here in a CSV file.
That is crazy, guys. That is crazy.
I love it.
All right, so let's try this one. And you know what? I'm giving the same results. Save it in its own Python file. Right?
Yep.
So let's see what happens. And I did specify 3 completely different models. Okay.
Why don't you send that, Dennis, to me as well in the chat, but maybe cut it in half so that I can copy both parts. So
sure.
Yeah, and we'll see how Codex does that. Or sorry, Claude Code does that. Thank you.
I think this will be... Oh, no, I still need to cut that other one apart too. Geez. We are trying... Oh, interesting. It also cut it off from my own.
Oh.
Well, just the last part we are trying to solve for. Yeah.
I'm also...
we are trying to solve for. Yep, thank you.
I'm also really gentle with hitting the just approve button and not reading as close as I should to what it is that I'm approving.
Yeah, because that's an actual command. It's running on your computer, so you want to look at it and make sure you know what it's doing.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't recognize this is a pip install, which you're right, Grant. It's like OS level, right? So you definitely should be careful with these.
Yeah, there's a lot of good resources for that, and I'll share some after we wrap up here.
I'd like to see those myself. I'm kind of new to the
the
coding end of this, so
Totally. I mean, same. Like it's been a wild ride trying to figure this out while we're flying. I reached out to someone the other day who is an educator in the space, and I asked them, how would you teach people how to code today, given the actual world that we live in 2026, where AI can do most of the actual coding, and hopefully we'll have them on and we can dive into that conversation.
I'd give them a V0 login and send them on their way.
No, but there are definitely genuine things that you need to know about how all of this stuff works. Even just how to work with your computer that not everyone knows. So I'd love to talk to them about that.
Okay, so if I'm gonna handicap how we're moving here, this looks pretty good, right?
Okay.
It's picking logistic regression as its first model. It's picking random forest as its second model. And then it's picking KNN as its third model. So
nice.
This is one of those things where, local data science knowledge does help, but you could also be a layperson and just say, hey, that makes sense to me, right? But because really what the point here is that you're trying to pick different approaches to kind of experiment with your data, right? That's the science part of data science.
Yeah.
These are tasks most humans can't do, by the way, or would not know how to do.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's actually an interesting thing to talk through. Is like, what is your approach to data science as a whole? And if someone is trying to get into it or work in that field, like what are the kind of like tips and tricks like that, like of trying multiple approaches that you would recommend people internalize?
Sure. Yeah.
How many lines of code does that say?
132.
Oh, not bad.
Total.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quick. Obviously, it can be a complex question, right, Grant? But what I usually tell people is that I went through a fairly formal training program in applied statistics, and there was like a capstone course for that. And in that capstone course, we were required to try 12 different models on the same data set, right? So that's kind of like the standard, right? Obviously, you got to learn how to work with 12 models on the way there, right?
Yeah.
And then also, when I was a chief data scientist and I had staff data scientists, if you came to me with a solution, I wanted you to come with me with showing me that you had tried 6 to 8 models, right? Because that supports your conclusion. If you can say, hey, this is the accuracy or the result I'm getting, and I ran it through 6 other models, now I'm listening to you, right? Now you're making an argument grounded in science, right?
Yes.
Right.
So those are just the numbers I usually throw out. I would hate for people to translate that and say, oh, well, this is easy, I just got to learn 12 models. That's not really data science, right? It's a little bit more complex. But that's the quickest way I can answer you, Grant.
But is that something that you could use AI with, where you could say, hey, this is my objective. My objective is to stress test every analysis I do with 6 to 8 to 12 different models, and you could then have it help you spin up all those potential scenarios to work with.
I mean, ideally, I would like people to say, hey, ChatGPT, I want to become a data scientist. Can you come up with a tutorial to help me understand 12 different, right? I mean, I'd like people to have like some of that, like
the grounded knowledge. Yeah.
Right. Now I have an approach to vibe coding that is my situation. So when I'm creating something, what I will do is I will grab that code and go over to ChatGPT and drop it in there and have it walk me through what I see. What's happening here? Give me a walkthrough of this piece of code and tell me what's happening. Thank you, Todd, for coming. We sure appreciate you.
Yeah, that's definitely a totally viable way to go about it, right?
Yeah,
where you're using it as a learning opportunity, not just I'm going to press keys at the keyboard type of thing.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to be a software engineer, but I want to better understand what I'm looking at. I want to be able to
Right.
understand enough that I can carry on a conversation with someone who is and understand 80% of what they're saying. And I want to be able to recognize when I'm looking through the code on something that I've made, like that's a lot of dependencies right there or something. You know, I want to just basic stuff. I want to be able to learn, you know, I like to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. Same. We all like to learn, which is why we're here.
Go nerds.
Yeah, so this looks fairly reasonable on all our results, right?
Wow.
So yeah, so for those of you following along at home, these are the 3 files that were just created automatically. And if we also look in the chat window, it also gave us the results.
Mm.
So not only did it generate the code, it also ran it for us again, kind of like in that in-memory approach. And it's
Right.
giving us the different accuracy values. And that's what we're looking for, right? Because in data science, we have this concept of what's your baseline for how good a model can get you to, and then can you top that baseline, right? And
Yep.
then when you can't top it anymore, that's when the process is done. So what this is telling me is this baseline started off as a 0.5820 in accuracy. The next model, Random Forest, got us to 0.67, which is great. That's an increase on the baseline. And then the third model, KNN, got us to 0.65, which is not a beating of our baseline, right? So,
Right.
that's what's known as the champion model process, by the way.
Okay.
So right now our champion model is the Random Forest model.
Mm.
So if we look at that, you know, just quickly that looks totally reasonable to me, right?
Okay.
So one of the key lines would be something like this one here, where we are saying that we are going to take we don't want to train on all 10,000 records, right? We want to set aside some records that the model hasn't seen, so that we can kind of test it blind, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that helps generate our results. So here it's going to say that we're going to set aside 20% of our records. We're going to train on 80%, which in this case is 8,000 records. And then we're going to set aside these 2,000 records that we're going to test against, and the value, the metrics that come from those 2,000, right?
Okay.
The values it hasn't seen. But yeah, everything here looks pretty standard. It does have code to print out the confusion matrix, which is good. I thought that it would give it to us on its own, but that's okay, because now it gives us an opportunity to go to our terminal window and run it ourselves.
Yeah.
I like it.
So yeah, so there it is. What did we say it was? It was the Random Forest. That's the better one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Random
Yeah.
Forest. So yeah.
Dennis,
So
how long would this take to do the old way?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Let me just get this running, because I'm pretty sure we're going to run into an error here, and I want to confirm it. Yeah, we're going to run into an error here, and that's fine. Yeah, so Corey, in data science, the hardest part is getting to the 10,000 records, getting to that clean, like training set. So that alone can take multiple weeks, right?
Wow.
The training side, like this, for 3 different models, is highly dependent on how much data you have, right? Because it's rarely just 8 columns like we have here.
Yeah.
And it also depends on like the skill of my data scientist.
Okay.
Right? Because data science itself is a skill. So for my juniors, I would expect that 3 models would probably take them like a month.
Okay.
For some of my seniors, it might be like 2-3 weeks, right? And then I'm doing different levels of hand holding, right? Like my junior, I would probably write code stubs for. My seniors, I don't write code for them. I expect them to work on their own. But yeah, I mean, it's about at minimum 2 to 3 weeks, most likely a month's worth of work.
Not including the first task, which was getting the 10,000 lines of
right.
Why are we talking about coding and an hour being impressive, or a few hours? This is crazy.
I know. Yeah. No, I hear
well,
you.
I mean, speaking of the idea of like the career being cooked and how to go about it, do you have concerns? And I know you mentioned that you had a couple interesting use cases with some clients recently, but do you have concerns about how, if it's so fast, does that mean that we're all going to be doing more work, or we're all going to be out of work in this field?
Yeah. So I am a little bit more optimistic about data science than I am about computer science, because in data science, there's still a lot of interpretation that needs to be done. So like, for example, we got to 3 models here, but their results might not be good enough, right?
That's true.
So what do you do then? Well, there's things you can do, right? First of all, but that's where the skill of being a data scientist comes in, right? Of saying, well, what are some of the techniques that I can apply to get our accuracy higher? Because we have a pretty decent accuracy, but we really need to be above 80%, let's say.
Yeah.
And we're at 65 right now in the best, or 67 in the best model. So what do you do, right? That's the skill of a data scientist, right?
Yeah.
Because when I tell you that my seniors would do it faster, it's not that they're coding faster, it's that they're more creative in the techniques they're applying.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we got a question here that's kind of related to that's sort of related to what you just said, and kind of a thing we addressed really, really early in the chat too, but I think it was worth bringing up again.
So to my previous query, computer science for computer engineer versus data science, which is a necessity for today's era, or will be set aside the next 3 or 5 years? Well, first of all, I don't know what you mean by computer engineer. Maybe you meant machine learning engineer. But
you could probably look at computer science versus data science.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm much more optimistic about data science because it is much more creative and not as prescriptive as other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at how computer science is typically done, right? You have somebody who has a project idea, you come up with a project charter, you go out and get the money, you create the BRD, right? The business requirements document. And that's important because the BRD is what you hand over to all the computer nerds and say, here, build us this, right? And that BRD is kind of like that DMZ between the teams, right?
Yeah.
The app you built me, when I press the enter key, either it does work or it doesn't work, right? You know, kind of like we were talking earlier about how it's very like it either did it or it didn't, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I think computer science is more cooked, because you can see how that could be an agent process, right? Here's the BRD, go make us this.
Yeah.
That's an agent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, one of the most creative things I read about computer science and prompting was that you could just write the tests from a computer science perspective, like the testing code, and basically have an agent and say, here, don't come back until every test passes.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's an achievable result with AI, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of people doing that now, and we'll share some resources related to that about this. Yeah.
Dennis, were you able to open the Mercury file? The one I emailed a few minutes ago?
You know what? That never came through. That never came through, Corey.
We'll see if I even hit send. Probably not.
You know, it's also possible that some email systems block code, right? They can detect Python.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you want to share it in like a Google Doc or something. It's probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. But guys, the point I'm trying to make there is in that cut and dry, like BRD, did the test pass or not? That's what makes it much more susceptible for replacement by AI, right? Because there is no creativity. There is no gray area. It worked or it didn't work. Data science isn't like that.
And is that because like you can't have, let's say, like 10 or 20 agents just reviewing all of the results of the different models that you run and coming to, like, because you can't trust their judgment? Like, why is it that you can't do it with data science at this point? Because
the techniques that you apply wouldn't necessarily be immediately accessible by agents. So for example, if somebody came back to me, one of my staff data scientists, I'd say, okay, well, would more data help? Can we go out and get 100,000 records? Well, at most organizations, that's not a technical request, that's a personal request, right?
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
why are we only starting with 10,000 records, right? Well, because the cross-border people in Switzerland told you that that's all they can send because of blah, 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 blah laws, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Switzerland is terrible with that type of stuff, right?
Right.
So that's not an agent problem, that's a people problem, right?
Yeah.
How can we go from 8 columns to 20 columns? That's what's known as data engineering or data wrangling or data factoring, right?
Okay.
Factor engineering. That's not an AI agent problem. That's a human problem, right?
Okay.
Right.
So to give an illustration of that, if you take a timestamp, right? Like most records have a timestamp. Okay, you can accept it as that, or you can say, well, wait a minute. If I have a timestamp, then I have AM, PM. I have weekday versus weekend.
You do?
I have holidays that I can account for.
Yep.
Each one of those is now an additional column, right?
Yeah.
Was this this purchase has a timestamp, but now I have a separate column to know whether it was a weekend purchase, whether it was an evening purchase or a morning purchase,
Oh, wow.
whether it was made on a Tuesday, right?
And then you would have
That's
to then
part of
run
the
tests.
creativity
Yeah.
of being a data
Even
scientist.
each day's performance. Day
Yeah.
of the
You
week.
have to look at what you have and figure out ways to unpack it or break it down
Exactly.
even further to see how else you can analyze it for even better insights, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's where I think the data science part is more defensible, and there's really no equivalent of that on the computer science side, right?
Interesting.
I guess you could
So
maybe
that's
make
where
the
I-
argument on the product side, right? Because you can always be iterating on product and you can always
Yep.
be trying to make something better or more unique with more features. That's like a creativity issue, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Same with perhaps design. I mean, design is part of product, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, so for those reasons, I am 10 times more optimistic about data science than I am about computer science.
Wow. We just got a question here from Edwin Wargum. Have you noticed any knowledge durability and understanding issues? For me, I've noticed that I understand and remember less using AI code or data science projects versus human/hand coding.
You say that like it's a bad thing. I hate to sound flippant, but I'm failing to see the problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
Interesting.
we only care about what the code looks like or our remembrance of because we have to do it as humans, right? But do you care when AI does it? Like the example earlier, right? Grant and Claude wrote much more elegant code than what I had, but we got to the same answer. So who cares?
And as an end user, the truth of the matter is,
Yeah, you don't.
I couldn't care less how it's
Yeah.
made. If it turns
Yeah.
on and it does what I want, I'm happy. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. It does. I mean, maybe depending on what I'm doing.
Right.
Well, it does matter. that part
Perfect
matters.
does matter in some instances, but
Yeah.
in terms of like the end user is never going to care. Like the truth is, you're caring about that for not just how it looks, but I assume, the ability to go in and clean it up later, to go back and address problems. Of course, you absolutely want to be able to do that.
I want to touch on one thing here.
Go ahead.
Dennis, I want to make sure we're almost at the hour mark. Can you stay a couple minutes over or do you have to go?
I'm here as long as you guys want. Well, let's go another hour.
I'm down. but okay, people are hanging out. Yeah, let's do it. But the thing that I wanted to address there is I think the hard part for people to accept with what you both are saying about that is so much of our identity is tied up in the things we know and the things we do. And it's really hard to separate yourself from that when you think like this. Okay, I'm a data scientist, so my job is to know how to create all these different models. But then, what is my job if the AI is making the models for me? And who am I if I'm not the person who makes the models?
Yeah.
And the AI is reviewing the models, and the AI is coming back and upgrading them later. And
like what makes me special versus Corey versus Dennis? Like if Dennis has so much experience in this, and then if I can do it with Claude, I mean, I don't know what to do, but if for instance I was told what to do, and then I can Claude do it, like what makes Dennis more superior to me in this situation? It's like that's what people really scares them, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, Grant, because most of the, when I get roasted in the comments and stuff, most of those arguments are definitely like very personal, right? They take it very personally, and it's almost like a defensive response, right?
Yeah.
But I had a mentor. He's still one of my mentors, and he told me, one of the things you learn is that change is hard, right? People have a hard time with change. Right. I remember he would always give me the example. I mean, look, we all still use QWERTY keyboards, right?
Yeah.
We know QWERTY is like a terrible typing system, right? There's faster keyboards out there. But all of us are still chimps typing away on slow QWERTY keyboards. Why? Because change is hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really what you're describing there, Grant, that people are going to have a hard time with the change. But
I have a theory as a writer too.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I've been writing since I was a teenager. Started my journalism career in right around 20, and it's been my identity that whole time. Is I'm a journalist. I'm a writer. I cover things. I tell the story. I do that. And what I would say is that after 3 years now, working daily, essentially with AI in one capacity or another. While some of the mechanical aspects of writing are now things I delegate out, the really creative aspect for me and the part that I love the most, which is finding the story, finding the angle, understanding the nuance of what happened and all of that, like that's very much still there. I am at a point where, if I was covering something newsy and I had it spit me out a first draft, I have no problem with that. The truth is, what I will do then is I will go back to the top, just like I have as an editor for many, many years. And I would work my way through it top to bottom, just like I always have. I mean, and I'm certain, you can absolutely get a model to edit well. I've got, a couple of projects built that edit really well. But I don't feel like my creativity has been like taken from me, or my identity is. I mean, my identity is a bit different because, frankly, now I talk for a living instead of writing for a living most days, and that's genuinely different. But as a whole, what I have found is I have more time to do things like creative writing, or to really ideate a cool idea. Like I sat down last week and was like, honestly, I was working with Mercury and Claude Code. I've had this idea for a book I've wanted to write for years. And one of the problems is I really struggle with keeping things straight over a large amount of time when it's a lot of things, like, like a really complex world and a broad number of characters, for example. So what I did was I started working with Mercury and had it build out essentially the governance of a world. Like I already knew what happened and I knew all of this, but it's like build out, for example, what are jobs in this world? What are what does a normal person go through? And most of that, I worked back and forth with it for a number of hours. And then I took that and started ideating through the story with Claude Code as almost like a choose your own adventure. And I was like, you know what I want? I want her to have done this and be this kind of person. And then it comes back and it's like, well, would you like her to do this? Would you like her to do that? Would you like her to come try that? And unfortunate hand gesture. And I sat there for a couple of hours working through very specific. I choose your own adventure is the only way I know to explain it. Do you remember those books? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like you're saying it's choose your own adventure writing, And to connect something that you said a minute ago to data science, like what Dennis was saying, perhaps that is what it is, where you're chasing the ideas, you're chasing the judgment, you're chasing the like, what else can I do with this? The true creative part of the job, whether it's writing or figuring out what models to run next or what you could do with the data. Perhaps that is then, you know, you're not spending your time doing the actual machinery of actually the typing or the you know, modeling, but you're more at a high level architecting these things.
Architecting, that's level. A really, you know, we've talked about this before, about the idea that instead of a doer, you're kind of becoming a conductor, an orchestrator of sorts of things. And I think that's really fascinating. Now, with that said, what it's doing right now has not been writing. I'm going to write a good chunk of it all myself. But what we're doing right now is working through the plan. I want a plan, like for, and I have a really big one, and a folder on my desktop that's full of things I've been saving and stuff I've pulled and things that AI has helped me ideate through. And that's how I see it. I see it as no different from Grant and I hopping on a call and me saying, dude, I got an idea for a book. I want it to be about this. And you going, you know, you could do this, you could try that, you could try that. And me going like, damn, that's a good idea. And I jot it down. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing it in a command line interface.
What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah, I think both of you use the word creativity. And I think that's what it comes down to. I just don't see those elements of creativity in computer science. And that's why I keep on coming back to why they are most at risk. Because I'm seeing some things in the chat, you know, about that, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing, guys, and I talk about this a little bit in my other content. I was very pessimistic about computer science degrees even before AI. I've been, you know, poor mouthing them for like 20 years. And the reason is because if you look at most curriculums out there for computer science, they're all the same. Like there's literally no difference. You can go to Texas State University, you can go to Nebraska, you can go to MIT. It's basically the same curriculum, right? Because there is so little creativity, you know. And I discovered this because one time I was hiring. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, like how many ways are there to write a sorting algorithm? Like there's not a lot of creativity there, right? And the way I discovered this is I was working for a large company. I needed to hire a junior developer, and I had a day where they scheduled like 6 or 7 interviews for computer science grads, recent grads. And it's like the same interview over and over again. They all took the same classes. They all did the same junior year project. It was usually compiler or an OS. Like it's just this like a cookie cutter degree, right?
Yeah.
Where do you go with that if there's no creativity and AI can do your job, right? You see, Corey, you're describing very creative functions. You know, writers have their own personal flair, their own personal style that they can bring to it. You can't do that in computer science, right? So that lack of
creativity, in front end.
I'm sorry?
Maybe in front end design, right? Like front end applications, you could get creative.
Sure, yeah. But that's not what computer science majors do, generally speaking, right?
That's fair.
Your front end people usually have a completely different background, right?
Yeah.
But that's really what I think most people fail to understand, that, you know, and why they get defensive, right? Because you've had 4 years of professors telling you that learning sorting algorithms is the key to a great job and everything, but that's just not the case anymore.
Wow.
That's true.
Like there's no creativity. You're describing things that are very rooted in creativity that still give you that judgment, that style that you can bring to it
as a person, even. I would say, you know.
And then that in turn, right, as me, the company, the hiring manager, it gives me a reason to hire you, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, right, like there's a differentiator there. Right?
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Like what would, like, let's say I'm someone and I want to learn data science for the first time and I'm trying to stand out, or I'm trying to stand out when you're interviewing me. What should I be doing with AI tools specifically, since that's kind of what the lens we're looking at here, in order to work that creative muscle?
Yeah.
I think you'd have to focus on a lot of the data engineering tasks and the data wrangling and the data transforms. Because even prior to AI, even good teams were very quick to rush through those stages of the data science development process, right? A major mistake that was being done in data science was I got my data from my stakeholders. I'm going to use that data to go do my modeling, right?
Yeah.
That's a mistake because there should be that transform or that creative phase in between.
Mhm.
And it should be like a couple of weeks, a month, whatever. Like you got to take your time. The timestamp example was just one example. There's a ton of them, right? Depending on the data that you're working with, right? The domain and all that. So if you want to really kind of say, hey, I'm a creative data scientist, this is why you should hire me, I would focus on that because that was also being done poorly even without AI.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
It
does.
does.
Yeah.
It does. I
Yeah.
think a lot of this that we're talking about comes down to people understanding the right way to use AI, and that, in my opinion, the real skill is not learning how to use a chat interface. But it's important, learning how to use a CLI tool. That's great, but it's not just that. I think this is really rooted in you have to be able to critically think about your approach to things. I think
Absolutely.
critical thinking is absolutely going to be the most in-demand, hardest to find skill because, critical thinking is one of those things we all think we can do. But the truth is, most of us can't. Not from a truly independent approach toward things. Like if you've never changed your mind, you probably aren't a great critical thinker. You've got to be able to recognize that once in a while you're wrong. You've got to be able to recognize that that there are different approaches, and sometimes both of those approaches are pointing at a good goal. I'm not going to get into politics because I'd never touch it, but like
Sure.
if you believe every single issue that one political party believes, odds are you're not critical thinking. If you should disagree with things. It's okay to have minor disagreements and still support something. It's okay to believe in a bigger cause and be like, yeah, but they're nuts when it comes to X or Y.
Right.
Find what you think and use that in using AI. You walk into what is the part, if there's a part of what you're doing that you want to keep it. You don't have to hand it all over. But if you do find you're handing things over, I think what you do is you go and you find ways, new things that are fulfilling to you. Like with the writing approach I was mentioning, like to me, I found it very fulfilling because like I'm sitting there and I feel like we're building this world together that didn't exist previously. And I get really hung up on that and I love it. Um, I don't know. Grant, what do you do with AI for fun?
Well, before I answer that, so I just tried to run the prompt that Dennis gave me to see if we could do it on Claude. And now I'm getting an API error, but I can show everyone what I did. And then we can see, I don't know if they're down right
Live
now.
television, baby.
Yeah, so let's see. So the last thing I did is I did testing. Nope, that was, nope. Okay, so I ran the exact thing that he recommended. And I said, I have a file named data.csv, and I want to create a data science model that is appropriate to solve for future predictions of this data. And I want you to create 3 complementary different models to create for this data. Each model should be saved in its own Python file and named with the approach. Also present the model's performance metrics in the form of a confusion matrix for each model in data.csv. The first column is named target, and that should be the dependent variable that we were trying to solve for. So, So then it says, I'll start by reading the data file to understand its structure. So then it read data. I don't currently have access to your data.csv file. So then it asks for permission. And then now I understand your data. And then it asks, I have a clarifying question. And then this is where it asks me the question. And you can't see, but basically what it does is it gives me 4 different options. And then I selected the one that it recommended, been into categories. And it says, now I'll create all 3 models. I'll use random forest, gradient boosting, XGBoost, and neural network, MLP classifier. Maybe Anthropic kicked me off because I'm trying to train a neural network on there.
Maybe API 500 is the code that means you've hit your limits.
Yeah, we'll see. But this is, let me create them in parallel. So then it creates the 3 files. It creates random forest classifier. It creates gradient boosting classifier and neural network classifier. And then it says, now let me run all 3 models to generate the confusion matrices. And then it failed multiple times. And then it ran the installed packages.
That one is server overloaded, Grant.
Oh, okay. Perhaps it's because everybody's going wild. I mean, it is peak work hours, right? Let me move this.
Well, yeah, I guess West Coast it is. Yeah, I don't know. It's Friday. No, it's not. It's my Friday. It is not Friday.
So then
it says, "Let me." Honest in its replies. I'm admiring the honesty.
Yeah. I'm not doing well today. My apologies.
Did y'all? Oh, dude, you're all good. Everyone loves you. The quick question, or the answer to that is, did you see the Claude Constitution file that came out yesterday, Dennis? That basically,
I didn't.
Yeah, so basically what it was is they published a giant document that sort of dictates how Claude should behave in all scenarios with ambiguity, and just kind of giving it for lack of a better word, a constitution for how it should always approach things. It just has a lot of personality and vibe to it.
In all scenarios with ambiguity, isn't that every scenario?
Something that was interesting to me about it was the whole idea was doing it with principles instead of rules.
Yes, exactly. That's a much better way to say it than what I said. Like, essentially, like, when 2 things are in conflict with one another across ethics, and where it should be honest and where it should be ethical, and where safety is concerned, how is it supposed to respond and balance the ambiguity? And then what Corey said is like perfect. It's the principled decision making, I guess.
The only thing that kind of concerned me about it is a thing that I regularly call out in prompting, and it's a concern that by nature, some of those conflict with one another a little bit. And I did not read the full text because, as you well know, it was a honker of a text file. And what I was wondering is, how does it settle conflicts between various things? When the right answer differs from one principle to the next, how do you decide which one to go with? I need to go back and look through it some more. So I'm not competent. Wrong word. I'm not confident enough in it to speak to it, but I have some questions I'd like to answer about it that I think are interesting.
Right.
Well, you're definitely competent. You and Grant are some of the most AI enabled people I have the pleasure of knowing. I'm really in awe of both of you guys, just the way you apply yourselves. So good job, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, we're definitely in a bubble, so we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people who are feel much more AI enabled than us,
and occasionally one another.
Yeah, exactly. Like, one week Corey's ahead of me, and then the next week I have to catch up to him, and then he's behind me, and then we have to catch up. But when you zoom out to the larger population, right. I mean, we're definitely in a bubble.
Yeah, and it's we had a talk about that, I guess, earlier this morning, actually, kind of talking about trying to, make sure that we're zoomed in and not zoomed in so far that we don't remember like who our audience is and what best serves them, and ensuring that, we're ticking those boxes. And it's that's a thing we wonder all the time, and it's never a thing that you do perfect at. You do okay for a while, and then you go back, you try again, is the truth of the matter. It's we just have a lot of fun, and the truth is, we're about as plugged in as you can be without one of those implants.
The Merge Labs or whatever, or the Elon, I forget what his is called. Neuralink, of course.
Yeah.
So Dennis, I want to get your thoughts on just what it created here.
Yeah.
I know we have an outage with Claude at the moment, so we'll circle back to that. But It created 3 Python model files, one per
Yep.
approach. It created 3 confusion matrix visualizations, which I pulled up. I'll give you an example.
Right.
To be honest, I don't know what this is, so perhaps you could
Yeah,
tell us
sure.
what this is.
Sure. Yeah. So once again, though, I gotta say that Claude gave the more elegant answer, right?
Nice.
I feel like Codex gave us a very functional answer, right? It gave us the results in like a simple text, right, on the screen. Whereas
Yeah.
you have like the actual visualizations of the confusion matrix and things like that, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if you want to leave that up. So
Yeah.
real quick, when it comes to algorithms, right, you have to think of it as a series of things that it does right and things that it does wrong.
Mhm.
So what are your true positives, right? In other words, X happened and the algorithm said that X happened, or X didn't happen and the algorithm said X didn't happen, right? In other words, that's what you want. The algorithm is in lockstep with your data, with your inference, however you want to think about that. But then it could also find what are known as false positives, right? Where the algorithm will say, yes, X did happen, and it actually didn't.
Okay.
Right. So that's an error, right? And then the inverse of that is that X actually did happen and your algorithm didn't detect it. That's a false negative, right? Where it was supposed to say, hey, X happened, but your algorithm didn't say anything.
Okay.
And it's important to think about that because it's the errors that get you, right? Whether in business or whatever field domain you're talking about, it's the errors that are like the danger zone, right?
Right.
So we're talking about that would be these white squares on the corner that they're zeroed as good, correct?
That's exactly right. So if you look at the confusion matrix, that diagonal, those are all your true positives.
The purples,
right?
Yeah.
So so those numbers you want to be high, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And as Corey correctly identified, the lighter squares where you've gone bad, you want those numbers to be as low as possible because those are essentially your mistakes.
Right.
Right.
So I guess what I don't understand, because that all makes sense to me intuitively.
Okay.
Where is it getting this from? All of the different times it's run it, because we had the list of data and then we ran the models over it. Where do these numbers come from? And then
sure.
I noticed the actual is kind of interesting in the middle, but. Yeah.
So do you remember how we previously talked about how we have our entire 10,000 records, but you don't want to do the whole model on that?
Yep.
Yeah.
You only want to train on 8,000 and then you want to test on 2,000.
Right.
So that's where this comes from those 2,000.
Okay.
Got it.
So this is telling you, hey,
it's a sample of your data.
Sorry?
It's a sample of your data then?
Exactly. Yeah, it's the set aside data, that 20%, where it said, hey, I'm going to create a model on these 8,000. And then I'm going to test that model against the 2,000 that I have no knowledge of, right? That's why you set them aside, because you want your model to have no knowledge of a certain number of records.
Okay.
And that's where this comes from.
Got
so
it.
if you were to add up all the numbers here, it would be 2,000, right? Or whatever the split was. I don't remember if it was 20% or not.
Yeah.
But that's where it comes from, Grant, where you set aside these records to go ahead and test and say, okay, yeah, from this data that was not previously known, here's where the metrics are. Because what it's doing is you're simulating how it would work in the real world, right? Because in the real world, it's unknown data also as new instances or new records come in.
Right. Got it.
Yeah, so that's where that comes from.
So what do you interpret from what we see there in that matrix?
I'll pull it back up.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets tricky, guys. And maybe this is kind of where we can tie everything together that we've talked about.
Okay.
So the diagonals is where you want to be, right? You want those numbers as high as possible. And that's also what's known as your accuracy rate, right? Because your accuracy is, what did you say was going to happen and how many times did it actually happen?
Yeah.
And that's where like most academic teaching is, right? Yeah. I want those diagonals to be as perfect as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have the lighter squares that are essentially your errors.
Right.
And the academics would tell you, well, errors are bad. Those should be as low as possible. But in the real world, those errors have values attached to them, dollar values.
Yep.
Yeah.
So some errors are more desirable or less desirable than others.
Yeah.
Right?
Is it an error that
Academics don't teach you
benefits
that.
you, or is it an error that costs you money?
Exactly. Now, academics aren't going to teach you that, right? Academics are always going to say high accuracy is better.
Right.
But the reality is that those edges, those lighter squares, those mistakes, that's really where the business value is.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So what we're looking at here then would be 85-ish% accuracy.
So let's talk about that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because another question that people in the chat might have, or that I get, I've gotten in previous, is people say, well, 85, is that a good accuracy? That sounds pretty good. 85% is pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you the same answer I give people to that. Let's say that this algorithm, the 85% accuracy, is for a bank, and they're using it for loan decisions on personal loans, right? And the yes, no, the accuracy is this person likely to default or no? So if I tell you, hey, I can tell you the likelihood of default on a personal loan to an 85% accuracy, is that pretty good? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
right?
that could be then used against people.
Right. But just go with me on this, right? Just
okay.
Let's suspend all belief. Just
I'm on the ride.
Yeah, 85% is not terrible, right? You could run a business on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I tell you that this same confusion matrix you're seeing there, 85% accuracy, is from Tesla, from their automated vehicles, and this is what makes a decision to press the brakes or not.
Shit. Oh.
Exactly. Exactly, right? Are you happy with 85%?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. Right.
And that, my friends, is Einstein's relativity.
Yeah, because the last 99.9%.
It's coming back to that creativity too, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to have to get more creative here? Yeah, because 85%, it's terrible in that situation.
Right.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
I don't want a car where the brakes work 85% of the time. That means I'm going to crash every time I go get coffee.
Exactly. And how much are those crashes going to cost you versus a bad loan?
So much.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And people's lives are at stakes, and you're going to kill grandma. And I'm sure you guys heard about the bodega cat in was it San Francisco? They got killed.
Waymo.
Right?
Took them
by
out.
Waymo, right?
Yeah.
So context matters. The business problem you're trying to solve matters, right?
Wow.
So that's where we're coming back to all of that. This is why I'm much more optimistic about data science, because there is so much more nuance in that world, right?
It's funny you mentioned that too, and that we mentioned Tesla and Waymo. I was on Instagram the other night scrolling through reels as one does, and I passed one. It was Elon talking about Tesla, and he was talking about, it's great if you can get to 99%, but the truth is, what really matters is the 3 nines that I need after it to know that it's much safer. And I was like, it was really interesting, and talking about there's a difference when you're talking in car crashes of 99.9 and 99.9999.
Right.
And he said those last 3 nines are expensive and they take a long time. And
then there's also scale with it, right?
Yeah.
How many personal loans can a bank make in a year? Right? Couple thousand.
Say maybe let's say it's 1,000 for simplicity.
Right. How many miles is a Tesla going to drive? Right.
Variable.
Like hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah.
And and how many car crashes are there a year? So going to that third 9 is still a lot of car crashes, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So scale matters too there, right?
And funny enough, they're all apparently still safer than people driving cars.
I don't know if I buy that, but I hear you.
It was looking at Waymo's safety numbers this year. Grant did a big report on those, and it was humbling
Yeah, and remember, Waymo does not separate out its injuries versus its deaths.
Oh,
That's
I
true.
didn't know that.
They
Interesting.
do not do that, right? Grant, I'm sure you know that you're a smart guy, but I'm very skeptical of Waymo's numbers because I'm familiar with the safety reports that they publish, right? First of all, they have to publish them, but they cook the books. Waymo is not a great company in my view, but you know.
Well, maybe you should check out the article that we wrote, because we were basically looking at I think it was Understanding AI who put it together, but they went in and they looked at all of the actual like cases of what happened, and in the admittedly small sample sizes they looked at, in the cases of extreme injuries, most of the time the crashes were actually proven that the human driver was at fault in most of those situations, and not the Waymo, which is interesting. And there's a lot of other interesting like stats that you could dive into there, but yeah, I'm sure I would love to see them do another update on that and pick apart the data and see, because they did a great job last time.
Yeah, I'd be
cool.
I'd be curious to see it moving forward too.
I think that's what convinced a lot of people, was that it's like, okay, well, when you look at what actually is happening here, it's usually not the Waymo's fault. In my opinion, the real issue with Waymos is if the grid goes down, so does your entire like
wherever you are.
Yeah.
That's
that worries me, because that means that there's a lot more data going back and forth than I anticipated. I don't know what you guys drew from that. But if that outage stopped those cars, that means they're heavily reliant on that back and forth traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was much more local than that.
Well, it looks local.
I don't know. I mean, I truly don't understand it, so I would love to talk to them, or maybe we can get some better.
I know last I read they'd gotten the LiDAR kit. Is it LiDAR? Yeah. Down to I think $17,000 for a car or something like that, which is interesting. It's also an interesting choice to use Jaguars, by the way. But Dennis, I have a question. I've always wanted to ask a data scientist.
Yeah.
Is it frustrating to watch like the news and see people use numbers and see them constantly like misused or poorly gathered? Or I think that because I am not a data scientist, and when I see reports, I am like I kind of hyperfixate on the fact that quite often that stuff is really not clear. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily government specific data or anything. I'm meaning more like but
I'm talking about when the news uses like statistics to make a point in one way or the other, right?
Yes. Like I feel like people tend to draw more from the data than the data is actually saying, and don't recognize that.
You know what, Corey? No, I don't find that frustrating, because to me, that's actually the lesser of all the possible evils. And a lot of that is just ignorance.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
To me, the scarier part or the more frustrating part is the stuff you can't see. Because you know that term lying with statistics?
Yes.
There's a million ways to do that you could never know about.
Yeah.
Right? Like let's take that confusion matrix example, right? We were at 85%, right? Yeah. And you're getting a lot of pressure to go 90%, right? And you've tried a couple of different things, and it's just not moving, right? Like the data is 85%.
Yeah.
Right. So as an example, and just to be clear, I'm not recommending anybody do this. I'm just saying it happens. One of the ways you can cook that number is you use a smaller test sample. Remember how we did that 80-20 split?
Yeah.
That's just a best practice, a recommended practice. But there's no law that requires that. There's nothing stopping you from saying, you know what, I'm going to go to 95% and I'm only going to test on 5%.
Yeah.
Your numbers
and then take the numbers you like better.
Right. Yeah, your number is going to go up. Right?
Really? But will it pretty much automatically go up if as you shrink the sample size? There's like an inverse law of sorts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But is that ethical? Is that a valid test?
No.
Right.
But you can do it. right?
Yeah.
So that's what worries me when you get Elon Musk saying, "Oh, we're at 99.9." Yeah, but how did you get there?
Yeah.
Right? There's like a
Yeah.
million ways your data scientists could have been cooking that.
Yeah.
So that's what worries me more. Just how did you get there? And you know, drug companies do it too, right? Drug companies do what's known as I think it's called sample shopping, where you know how like when they do like those live human like trials.
Yeah.
But if you get into the weeds, you find out that their latest drug was on people in Peru who live at 10,000 plus feet, and it's only women above 40 years old. Because they will go and they will shop the different demographics
Yeah.
that get them to those numbers that the FDA wants or whatever. Like they will go around the world to find those groups, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
a
another
thing in
way
the
to line up
cannabis
the
industry, even I've read about.
Which one?
That even in the cannabis industry, that is a thing,
Sure.
I'm told.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Around like, you know, essentially there's this idea that customers want higher THC percentages. So when they ship them off to labs, they'll ship off a ton of it to different labs and get back results from all of them and pull the one with the highest number and stick it on their package.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and-
that's the stuff that's more concerning, right? The stuff you don't see, but that happens all the time.
Yeah.
What's
Wow.
not put in it? That's fair.
It's a crazy
Yeah,
world.
those are just
man.
two examples.
So trust no
obviously, but
numbers
those
you didn't create.
Right.
Well, I guess the question is, so we've got these, Claude was able to create all this really nice looking material for us here.
It is pretty.
There's 2 feature importance charts as well, and then a training loss curve. How do we know that it's accurate, or like how could we fact check this to make sure it's good?
Mm-hmm. So remember that right now we've only done the training side of algorithms.
Right.
Okay.
We haven't done the prediction or the inference side.
Right.
So that's how you would go about it to answer your question, Grant. You would say, hey, this looks great for the random forest one, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead and create a brand new file that does the inference side of that using the trained random forest model.
Right.
And then you would go out and you would try it. And you would be trying it against brand new data, right?
Yeah.
And that's known as like a validation phase.
Okay.
Right.
Where you can go out and say, okay, well, let me run my new personal loans or whatever at your bank through this new algorithm and see what happens. And then can you replicate that 85% in the real world?
Could you then take that same exact data file and go over to Codex and run it in there and see if you get the same results out and see if they match between the two or if they're within 3% or something? Is there any value in an approach like that, or is the answer that we still don't know whether either one of them's right?
So that's not. I don't think there's a lot of value in going across LLMs like that.
Okay.
I think the better value would be we just asked it to do 3 models just for an example.
Yeah.
But to stay within the same LLM and say, okay, well, this time I want you to try 12 models.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to really see a lot of the benefits.
And then you're looking at all of those side by side and seeing how close do these compare.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember how we were talking about that champion model process where you're kind of trying to beat your baseline?
Yep.
Well, the more models you try, the more probability that your baseline is going to be beaten, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend in that scenario.
I have so many things I want to do this with now, Dennis. I think of all these.
Awesome.
I think of like YouTube analytics. I think of
Right.
so many things that I would love to be like, go do that and come back and see if we can't narrow things down better. And I'll bet you could do that.
So if you were going to do this, if you have a reaction to that, go ahead. I have a question.
So to your point, Corey, we started with synthetic data.
Yeah.
But we could choose to start with our own data set and say, here.
Yeah, that's a perfect setup for what I was going to ask, which is how would you then do that? So let's say you're working with Codex or you're working with Claude. You would have to connect to your data somehow. You'd probably do it with an MCP, I'm imagining, but
you could also download a CSV of it or something.
There you go.
You could you could export from like Beehive, for example.
Yeah, MCP would probably be overkill in that case.
Yeah, because you wouldn't need the continuous connection. You'd just need
you'd probably use a different
Yeah.
tool for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Corey, right? You don't need real time, like minute by minute analytics on it.
Yeah.
It's just like a one time or quarterly process or whatever you'd be doing.
Export
Right?
and go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So from there, you can actually start and just say, hey, look, here's what I got. What ideas do you have for me to analyze this data? Because a lot
Right.
of the things for YouTube analytics, so we take that as an example, you're really kind of just exploring. You wouldn't necessarily build a model for that, but you want the deepest analytics possible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I give you a YouTube file, what are some of the things that you can generate from it, right?
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
then just build up from there on what it tells you.
Huh.
I don't want to get cut off again. It looks like it's working.
I noticed I only created the neural network model file, but not the other two.
Yeah. Wait. What?
Let me create.
That's crazy.
Is that true? Is that what it told us it did?
No, that can't be true because it gave you the confusion matrices for all of them.
Yeah, I think, well, this might be a unique aspect of Claude Cowork, and I would love to talk to the team at Anthropic about this more in depth, but my understanding is that it creates a local instance so that the chats it's not local on your computer, like it's still like a virtual machine, but basically the data goes between your computer and this virtual machine, and so every time it spins up an agent here, I think it's perhaps a more complicated process for it to read the chat window and know what's going on. I don't know that for sure, but that's just the observation that I've observed through using it a couple times, is that it seems like it gets a little bit confused more often.
Just a thought, we were comparing codecs in Visual Studio to Cowork, not Claude in Visual Studio.
No, you're right, and that's totally fair, right? Because
I wonder, would it have created? It wouldn't have created images outside of Cowork, probably, would it?
Well, let's see.
In
Let's
the
open this up
CLI?
and can it open? I can try
Well, it
and
also
go
felt like
see.
you were describing a problem with state handling, right?
Yeah.
Like that virtual instance you're talking about just doesn't hold state for very long, which kind of
seems
makes
like
sense
that's
because
what's
that's costing
happening,
the
yeah.
memory on their end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't hold those open very long.
So this is Claude. This is Claude in the terminal here. Let me say, let's go to our Cowork folder, Cowork test folder. Let it do that.
You know, you do still need to understand some basic command line commands and things to do that well. Like if you don't know how to get to settings, like understand you need to use a slash, or how to quit. Like there's not a stop button. There's little things like that you do still need to know operating. I mean, I know they seem very basic, but to someone who's never done it before, it might be.
Yeah, I mean, for that, my suggestion is just you ask the AI to tell you what to do. Like, what is it? Like, I would say, like, what are the commands? You could say, before you take any action or write any commands, please explain to me your plan for what you're going to do, and then I can follow along. And then, what'll happen is it'll ask you to. I'm just pulling it up real quick on the side here. It'll ask you questions when it wants to make a command. So for example, it's asking me, it wants to run a bash command right now. And so I'm going to just give it approval to do that.
But to Corey's point, though, that raises the amount of technical knowledge you need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still not like an immense amount of technical knowledge. It's very much an attainable amount. But what I would say is, while it raises the amount of technical knowledge you need, it also lowers the bar for what you can do with less technical knowledge at the same time. So kind of the idea is, if you're willing to learn just a little bit more, you can access a bunch of stuff that a year ago wasn't possible with even that amount of knowledge, so
yeah.
Well, the progress of AI itself will also continue to bring that down, right?
Yes, and that ceiling is going to continue to fall. Like ideally, it's all going to be natural language at some point.
Exactly.
Or me yelling at a computer. That's where we're probably headed.
Well, we're going to reach a point, like we were kind of discussing earlier, where do you even need to see the code window? Do you even need to specify that you want it in Python? Like, there's nothing that we could have done today that we needed to specify Python. It could be in Java or whatever. Right? We're just using natural language prompts, and and if you can get to a one-shot status, write it in whatever language you want. Don't even show it to me. Right?
Or even a point where
one-shotted.
If a visitor is on your, we're going to say website, even though it may not be a website we're talking about, and and you've got a help link down at the bottom with a little chat bot. If it says, hey, this is an opening, I mean, it's possible that can just then spin up an agent, go fix the problem, and the user moves on with their day. Or recognize without ever needing to go to a human or be open. I mean, that's not far in the future, if it's in the future at all, honestly. Like, that's definitely a capability that a savvy engineer and a good LLM could do right now.
Sure.
Interesting. Well, Dennis, I don't want to keep you all night. And it's the tail end of my week too, and it looks like folks are kind of slowly dwindling on us. And Dennis,
this has been a great discussion.
It has. It's been so much fun. I've learned a lot. I'm ready. I'm looking forward to my data science with Dennis data science degree that you're going to mail me. But I can't thank you enough, man, for coming on here. You're a delight to follow, and even more of a delight to know. And thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys too. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be able to talk back and forth with guys that get it, right? You guys clearly get it. When you're talking about that zooming out view, Grant, you guys are so much more advanced than other people. You feel like you're behind because there's so many different things coming at you. Right. But you guys are miles and miles ahead of people out there, and I really appreciate your content. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah, appreciate that. I guess one last thing I want to ask before we tell people where to find you. Why do you think that the community is so resistant? Because you said it's good to talk with folks like us, but is the data science community as a whole not this AI forward? And I mean, we kind of touched on some of the reasons, but
the thing is, though, as Corey was saying, how those technical barriers are dropping, right? One of the things I've observed is that there's so many people from different backgrounds coming into this. You don't have to be a data scientist to get into anything we talked about today, right?
Right.
Corey, I know you and I had a conversation about this, and I don't want to, put any free plugs out there, but I went to the Human X conference last year.
Yeah,
and it was really eye-opening. Sorry?
Yeah, we missed each other. I did, yeah.
Oh, you guys were there too?
I was there. Yeah, this was before we were doing this podcast. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, you must have missed. Yeah, but the thing that struck me was that the different backgrounds that were there, they were not techie people. They were finance people, marketing, HR. The barrier has clearly come down, right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I hate to sound antagonistic or something, but when I hear these people, it's like, well, what you're really telling me is you haven't spent enough time with an LLM. You haven't really gotten your hands dirty with prompting and knowing what's out there. Because if you look at what's out there, there are so many tools that do not require a tech background at all.
No, absolutely.
Right? So I think that's part of it, where people are just kind of just get out there and start prompting your butt off.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. So I just think it's a little bit of just not liking change, maybe a little bit of laziness, or maybe just not understanding how close we are to having some radical changes in AI.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, coming back to the predictions, that's one of my phrases. You're going to start hearing people say, I didn't think it would happen this fast.
Yeah.
People are underestimating how quickly it's going to happen. I really think 2026 is going to start alarming some people and say, whoa, AI can really do that? What? I thought that was years away.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's not.
And you guys know that, right?
And some of that is already happening, and people don't realize it. There are a lot of folks with 2-year-old opinions right now who don't fully understand the speed
They got the ick and they haven't come back.
velocity. That's a better word. The velocity with which this is occurring. And
for sure.
and as a result, you need to step back and take another look once in a while, and a lot more often than you might with other things. And I think that's why a willingness to change your opinion on a thing once in a while. And you know what? Maybe you're right, and that's great too. But don't hesitate to look again. I think people need to look again and be prepared to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. I mean, I don't, there's not an end date. I don't think, it's not going to hit 2030 and we're all going to be like, yay, we're there. It's over. We're going to move on to something different now.
Right.
I mean,
There's no finish line for sure.
Yeah. There's not a finish line,
Yeah.
There's a finish line for what you're going to notice, and it's not far away. Like there are people now, I would argue, that when you look at the difference between ChatGPT 4.0 and 5.2, which are dramatically different models,
right?
That for most of what they do and most of the kinds of things they want to know, the questions they ask, they're not going to access the stuff that is what makes it unique and what makes it better. And that's going to happen to all of us too. Like, we're going to reach a point where the difference is like, oh, it got one more unsolved physics problem this time, guys. Here we are, and I don't know, but when you think, when you try to think longer ahead from not 2026, but 2028, 2033, 2100, what's 2100 look like? I'll be 70 years old in 2050. And I can't imagine what 2050 will look like right now.
You might be 70 years old in 2100 if we fix aging.
I hope I'm 35 in 2100 is what I'd like.
Reverse aging.
That's 70 pounds lighter, and
you might be more hair. Well, you'll still be 100 something, but you'll look a nice, mean, lean 35.
Yeah, there's a large sector of people right now that this whole "don't die" movement, that genuinely believe that there's a cure for. Some believe there's a cure for death, and I think that might be a stretch. But the idea that there's a cure for aging is not that far out of the realm of the possibility these days. There's some amazing stuff happening in those fields that is stunning. So.
Well, yeah, there's that thing going around, right? That if you can live another 15 years, you'll probably live to 100 because we're that close, right?
Yeah, even 5. I keep hearing 5.
Yeah,
Don't die in 2030.
Like
Make it to 2030. And because the truth is, I mean, right now, new proteins, new drugs are being discovered. They're going to be able to go to market faster. The FDA is going to be able to clear or deny them faster. Every step of that is going to get fast. Things are going to move quicker. And frankly, they should. You shouldn't have to watch people die for 9 years while some drug clears market that can save lives. I mean, how do you speed up the process that's meant to protect us in order to save us? And I think that's a powerful thing to unlock. And I can't wait to see it. That's the truth is, that's the pot of gold at the end of AI that, we all want to see. I think, everybody wants to see healthcare solved, cancer be a nuisance. Oh shit, I gotta go to the doctor. I got cancer. You want it to be like that, where it's like a cold. I need some Sudafed to fix that, and you move on with your day.
Call up my Doc GPT in my pocket and get my meds 3D printed at my house.
And have meds 3D printed in my kitchen. That's right.
Yeah.
Guys, well, on that note,
we live in interesting times for sure.
They sure are. Dennis, where can people go to find more of Data Science with Dennis?
Yeah, would love to hear from you guys. I'm most active on Instagram, so DS with Dennis on Instagram, or Data Science with Dennis here on YouTube, or my homepage, datasciencewithdennis.com. But really, thanks a lot, guys. I love having discussions like this. I certainly hope that the audience got something out of it, but thanks so much for having me. Really, really great to connect with you guys. I feel really fortunate that I was invited by Microsoft to go to that conference and to meet you guys. That's been just like an amazing addition to all that. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Same for us, man. It's been a lot of fun, and we're having more fun every day. If you're
Yeah.
watching, please take just a moment and subscribe to our channel at Dennis's channels. And we'd love to have you back. We've got a whole bunch of these out there, and we got some cool stuff dropping even as soon as 9 a.m. tomorrow that we haven't mentioned yet. So you'll want to be around and check your email. Also, pop by the neuron.ai and sign up for the newsletter and join 630-ish thousand people who read it every morning. We'd love to count you as one of them. And on that note, that's it for today. Farewell for now, humans.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.